St. Clair Shores City Council to order. Abby, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burgess.
Here.
Councilmember Karen.
Here.
Councilmember Frederick.
Present.
Councilmember Rubello.
Present.
Councilmember Vitale.
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Rusi.
Here. I will be acting as Kip today. He is out of town, and he has asked for a motion to excuse.
Move to excuse the mayor. Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
The quorum is present.
Quorum is present. Thank you. Please rise for the pledge. Okay, item number 2, proclamations and presentations. We do have 2 tonight. I've asked some of my colleagues to share in the honor of presenting the proclamations tonight. So first up, Councilman Frederick, can you please present the proclamation honoring the Wonderful Skating Club's annual ice show?
I would be happy to. This is on, right? Okay. Come on up, you guys. How we doing?
Good.
All right. I see we have Claire and Bailey, right? Carly?
Bailey.
Carly, Claire, Bailey. All right. Okay. All right. This is a proclamation for your 52nd annual. Wow, 52nd annual. We've been to all of them, I think, right? Reflections on Ice Weekend, April 26th through April 28th, 2024. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of St. Clair Shores deem it fitting and proper to publicly recognize and commend organizations dedicated to serving the youth of St. Clair Shores. And whereas the St. Clair Shores Figure Skating Club's Reflection on Ice show is being presented for the 52nd consecutive year, featuring more than 100 local skaters ranging in age from 3 years old to adult from the St. Clair Shores Figure Skating Club and the St. Clair Shores Learn to Skate program, all under the direction of Claire Ledoux. And whereas guests will enjoy this year's themed event entitled Wizard of Oz on Ice, which will include the St. Clair Shores Figure Skating Club's adaptation performed by their accomplished skaters. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of St. Clair Shores do hereby proclaim April 26th through the 28th, 2024 as Reflections on Ice Weekend, and wish the St. Clair Shores Figure Skating Club every success in this event and their year of skating. Presented this day, April 15th, 2024. Say a few words.
I can do.
Is this still working? All right, we'll see.
Okay. So like you said, it's our 52nd annual ice show at the Civic Arena. I have been there myself for 18 years doing the ice show. So we've had a lot of shows under my direction. This year we're doing Wizard of Oz. It's going to be the classic Wizard of Oz movie with our own interpretation on the music, and that's where these young girls come in. And Carly told me she has been doing the show for 9 years. Yeah, and this is Bailey's first ice show with us. Yeah, so we welcome you to our show. The tickets are on sale at the Civic Arena front desk right now, or you can get tickets at the door. Our shows are Friday, April 26th at 7:30, Saturday the 27th at 1 and 7:30, and then Sunday at 2 p.m. We also have a special needs show that we do for the Kiwanis group. We have over 500 special needs children coming in on Friday, and we're going to put a show on for them. It's usually our favorite show. They really enjoy it, and we know we're doing a good job because they enjoy the music and they love being there. So that's a special event that we put on for the city and for those folks.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Appreciate you guys coming, and we'll see you.
Tickets and
All right.
posters for
Excellent,
you guys,
excellent.
so thank you.
I'm going to pass these to.
I know a lot of you come every year, so we really appreciate
Oh,
it.
we're excited, especially Wizard of Oz. This will be a good one. So, and who knows? I may have grandchildren next year in this. So, pretty excited. Pretty excited. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Yep, and I've asked for the second proclamation tonight, Councilman Rubello, to have the honor of presenting it to one of our longstanding local small businesses. So Councilman Rubello.
Thank you, Mayor Temp. Denise, come on up. I never thought I'd be doing this the first time I met your parents and stuff. That was 37 years ago. Can you grab those for me? Thank you. This proclamation is to Connie's Children's Shop in honor of number 70. Wow. Denise?
I look good.
That is incredible. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of St. Clair Shores deem it fitting and proper to publicly recognize and express our pride and appreciation to Connie's Children's Shop on the occasion of 70 years of business in St. Clair Shores. Folks, you just don't see that too often, that's for sure. I can hardly remember anybody older than this. St. Clair Shores has always served the city as well as a thriving part of the business community. That's Connie's Children's Shop. Whereas Connie's Children's Shop, located at 23240, right in downtown St. Clair Shores, Greater Mac right there, it opened on March 4th, 1954. The world hasn't even heard of Elvis Presley at that time, okay? By a 20-year-old entrepreneurs, Sydney and Maxine Court. Those were your parents. They'd be very proud of you for carrying it on. I knew both of them. They had an idea to open a children's clothing store in St. Clair Shores. Whereas Sydney and Maxine had developed a good retail work ethic after working for Maxine's parents, Joe and Yetta Weinberg, who owned a small independent dime store in Grosse Pointe Woods and later joined them in this business venture. So, incredible. Whereas Connie's Children's Shop, named after Sydney and Maxine's firstborn daughter, has maintained its niche in this very competitive clothing market by specializing in items you might not find anywhere else, such as the famous school uniforms. Who hasn't bought a school uniform there? Communion dresses, boys and girls clothing, offering great customer service, and is the place returning customers bring their children and grandchildren and probably great-grandchildren.
Yes.
Whereas Connie's Children's Shop is still family-owned and operated by Joe and Maxine's daughter.
Granddaughter.
Well,
Joe and Yetta's granddaughter.
Got
That's me.
That would be you, Denise Court, who went to work for her parents in 1988. So I met you. Yeah.
35 years ago.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Incredible. And she's the sole owner. She has embraced the business wholeheartedly and continues to provide quality clothing for children in the city of St. Clair Shores and way beyond. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of St. Clair Shores, on behalf of all of our residents, extend our congratulations and best wishes to the Court family and Connie's Children's Shop for their dedication in serving the community on the occasion of celebrating their 70th anniversary, and wish them many more years of continued success.
Thank you.
Maybe you'll be up here for your 80th. I only wish your parents could see this, okay? So,
Thank you. I appreciate it. I couldn't have done this without my fabulous staff.
yeah, if you want to introduce,
Oh.
go ahead.
Okay, Melissa Chun, who's worked for me for 30 years. Jennifer Ventes worked for me for 12 years. Kathy Hawkins, who's worked for me 10 years, and then again 10 years. Jill worked for me in high school, and now she's 48 and works for me. And I have her daughter that works for me as well.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So that says something when I knew you were, I'm not sure, you might have been in junior high school when I first met you, so. High school?
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Rusi, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 3, audience participation on agenda items, 2-minute time limit per speaker, and speakers have to submit a form to the city clerk prior to the start of the meeting. Abby, do we have any?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Then we'll get into the substantive agenda. Kip has left behind a very robust agenda tonight, so let's get into it. Agenda item number 4, request to appoint Assistant City Manager / Human Resources Director. As I'm sure everyone knows, Mike Green, the previous Assistant City Manager, left to become the city administrator of Lathrop Village, and we congratulate him on his position and wish him well. Mike's departure left us with a vacancy that I know Dustin has been working hard to identify someone to fill. Under the city charter, it's the council that appoints the assistant city manager, though, which is why we have this on tonight's agenda. So I'll let Dustin speak to the process and who he has identified to take the position, and then I'll open the floor to questions from my colleagues. So, Dustin?
Thank you. As all of you are aware, as Councilwoman Rusi mentioned, Mike Green did take another position. As soon as Mike took another position, we started the application process. We Zoom interviewed 8 individuals. We narrowed that down to our top 3, and we ended up actually adding 2 additional interviews to make it our top 5. After the interview process, we are extremely excited to bring forth a Mr. Matt Baumgarten. He is currently the city manager at the city of Berkeley. He has 8 years of knowledge as being a city manager, and before the city of Berkeley, he worked at the city of Lathrop Village. So it's kind of like a little full circle here with Mike going to Lathrop Village, and then Matt being there before, and then Matt obviously being at the city of Berkeley. So in front of you, you guys will actually have the application and resume from Mr. Baumgarten, and I do believe some of the council members have reached out to him as well, and so I appreciate that as well. So if any questions, I can answer.
Yep, I did actually talk with Matt this afternoon and found him to be very knowledgeable and experienced, and I think he would be able to help out the city. How do you plan on utilizing him? What type of things does an assistant city manager do?
So assistant city manager is purely my right-hand person. When I'm not here, the person,
Oh,
the
that's me
assistant.
tonight.
Yes, the assistant will be sitting in this position. Being able to bring in a wealth of knowledge, we're hoping that the transition time is going to be quicker than what normally that would incur. One of the other things that, as in the description of the position, it's the assistant city manager position with an emphasis in HR as well. So Matt will be taking a large position in upgrading a lot of our HR policies and procedure manuals, but then also as well working with each one of the department heads and just moving this city forward.
Okay, any questions or comments? Councilman Rubello.
Yeah, I didn't exactly call him, but I called somebody who knew him, because I think that's even a better way to do it. And he's a fellow, I guess I gotta say his name out loud, because he said he's gonna be listening. Mark Reitenga, I'm using your name now. He's a guy, he sells actually advertising out in Berkeley. He does a similar job that I do here in St. Clair Shores, and he thought he was a wonderful guy. So, is he, one thing I always like is grants. How is he able to do any of that stuff as far as grant writing and?
Yeah, so I don't want to speak for Matt, but anytime you are in a lead role and you're running as a city manager, you're always heavily involved in grants. And I do want to make sure all council know as well. The only reason Matt isn't here tonight is Matt is still the city manager in Berkeley, and their actually council meeting is tonight as well. So he is running the council meeting for the city of Berkeley tonight, or he would have been here.
Okay. Trust your judgment.
Okay, Councilmember Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, I talked to Matt Saturday morning. We had a good about 45-minute conversation. So, yeah, very knowledgeable. Obviously, his resume, very experienced. And do kind of want to clarify, it may seem weird of a city manager coming over to do an assistant city manager. Well, we are 4 times as big. He did say, we've got some large projects that are going through that he was very excited about. And it was kind of like a good time for him to look to transition to doing something new. After one community for 8 years, it was kind of like needing some new challenges, I think, as well. So he did say he was going to be at his other meeting tonight. He had some projects there that he wanted to make sure were closed out and finalized, so I appreciate him being thorough in that regard as well. I do think in terms of the HR aspect of it, because I did notice, as I did ask for the posting, and we really didn't have that much HR-related items in the posting. And I guess I would hope that not just worried about the policies, but be more of that lead role. And that, given his level of experience, and in terms of talking to him, he's a one-stop shop in Berkeley for everything in the city manager's office as well. So he's dealt with everything from hiring, negotiating. They've got a Act 345 pension system as well, and so it's really to be able to take advantage of that experience coming in. Because this weren't like the last two to where we're bringing in younger talent and growing them in position. He can come in and hit the ground running, and especially with a lot of the challenges. We got contract negotiations coming up next year, and those are going to be incredibly challenging, given the recent history of contract negotiations and how they've been going. So I would encourage you that just really give them the ball and let them start running it on day one.
Councilman Vitale?
I'm just going to mention that I didn't actually reach out to Matt personally, but I did do a lot of reading up, finding where he turned up on the internet, things like that. I actually read some really good coverage in C&G, both from his initial hire 8 years ago in Berkeley, and then his announcement that he was going to be leaving Berkeley, which gave me a good idea of his background and some other. I believe he is a Macomb County native, so we won't hold Oakland County against him. And he seemed excellent, well qualified for the job. So
I'm very excited.
Okay, Councilmember Frederick.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're going to have some help in that office. Because,
Me too.
I know it's been kind of a crazy few months here.
Yes.
So, but I would move to approve the appointment of Matthew Baumgarten as our Assistant City Manager and Human Resources Director.
Support.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Rubello. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion passes.
Welcome, Matt.
Yep, congratulations, Matt. We look forward to working with you. Okay, agenda item number 5, planning case PPC 24004, request for site plan approval for an addition to an existing building at 30130 Harper, represented by Maggie Verney of Maggie's Woods for Kids of Michigan. I think Liz will be helping to present on behalf of the city.
Good evening, Council, and thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to come and present. I have Art Collegiant here with me, who is our architect who designed our original building, if
Okay.
any of you have never seen it before.
Okay, I just first want to make sure you understand that even though we're one member down tonight, you still require at least 4 votes to pass. So I wanted to make sure you understand that, so want to proceed tonight.
Okay,
Okay?
all right,
Great.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So if you want to go ahead and present, do you have something you want to say about it? Okay. Wigs for Kids is, we've been in existence for 21 years. We've been at our current location for 4 years. We opened in 2020. We started out really small, 460 square feet on the side of a building with no sign. And the building that we want to add on to our existing building is really for storage. We've never been able to have an on-site storage, so we have always had to rent storage units, and for a while we were at Pear Elementary because that's a hub for nonprofits, and we rented space there for several years, which worked out great, but it also costs money. And I would, you add up all that money over the years, and we're grateful that we had it, but we need to have an on-site storage for our sustainability. And we have this beautiful little piece of property right behind our building, but I didn't want it to be like a shed or something like that. I didn't want it to take away from our beautiful facility. And I also wanted it to be able to have our volunteers back there. The garage door will open, it's a glass door, and it opens up. And then people drop, we're so blessed that people drop stuff off to us all day. Every day we get stuff dropped off for the kids, either blankets or pillows or treats and all kinds of toys, all kinds of things. And they go in my Hummer. We call it the pod. And we load that up all day long. And then at the end of the day, we make the trip to the storage. But the problem is during the day, I have to send my staff, we're really small, and I have to send my staff out to address this and to go pick stuff up, because if you send a volunteer and they were to get injured or hurt or something happen, we would be liable. Even though we have insurance, we don't want that to happen. We don't want our employees to get hurt either. But and we're short-staffed all the time. So this really would be beneficial for many reasons. One, we are blessed. We get 300 volunteers a year that come and help us. I say many hands make less work for all of us, and because of that, we are already out of space. So we need an on-site storage building for our sustainability, and we have the space. So, and I think it's a beautiful addition to our building, where it's going to be brick on the outside, and we're going to leave the trees in the back so it doesn't interfere with the people behind us, and it's going to look lovely like it's always been there. Do you want to add anything, Art? Is there anything?
The only thing I would add is we lowered the scale of the building so it wouldn't be so.
Nick, can you step up closer to the microphone, please?
Yeah, we dropped the size to a minimum so that wouldn't be so intrusive to the neighbors, because it is close to the property line, but I think it'll blend in nicely. There's a 6-foot wall next to it, so it's not that much higher, about 7 feet higher, but it'll match the building. And we purposely took out the glazing that was in the original design, so there's no light penetrating the neighbors, and we changed it with an overhead door that will be glass, so it looks more like a storefront.
Okay, and speaking to the setback issue, was variance will be required by the ZBA for that, correct?
Right.
Okay. So you're looking for a 440 square foot storage addition to your
Correct.
existing building, and I know you guys utilize every square inch of space you currently have right now for your operation.
We do, for all the programming, so we have no space.
It's fantastic. You've been doing so well in your current space that you need more space because people support your program so much.
It's a good problem to have, I know. And we wrote a grant for the funding, so none of the costs will come out of our programming money.
Fantastic.
So we wrote a grant, and we have the funding to pay it off. So we're not borrowing the money, we're not using the money of the program that people have contributed and donated. This is just for this purpose, and it's been approved.
And in fact, you'll be saving money because you'll no longer have to spend money on renting storage
Yes.
space.
You know how many
so
wigs that is a year? That's a lot of money.
That's
So-
fantastic. Okay. Councilman Rebello.
I think it's 6.
6, that's right, 6, because that's right, it was $600 a month we were paying. I said,
Dave
I
did the
told
wig
Dave,
math.
yes, I said, come on, that's 6 wigs a year, because they're 1,200.
I cheated. She told me the answer to that. Maggie, you do an unbelievable job, obviously, out of that location. You've helped so many people. What's amazing is you didn't even have to take any of your parking or anything like that away.
No.
So you have a lot of parking back there.
Right.
And for anyone, I'm not sure if you explained to the people what you're doing in this building.
Wigs for Kids is a local grassroots nonprofit organization, and what we do is provide wigs and support services for children all throughout the state of Michigan. And we're connected with all 8 hospitals all throughout Michigan, so kids come all the way from the upper. And so we have, besides providing the wigs, we also provide all the support services for the children and the families at no cost. They can come there, whether it's events or if they, want an appointment, they're going to prom and they want to get their nails and their hair done for prom, or they want to come in for therapy, BR therapy, or whatever they need. Everything we offer, please visit our website. We have so much that we offer there at the program, and the parents pay absolutely nothing.
And I know Councilman Fredericks worked heavily with you over the years, so.
I didn't know if I could say that, but we are so blessed. He's been with us almost from the
One of
beginning.
the greatest auctioneers I've ever heard.
Yes.
And Bob Belat, of course, with you the whole way.
Well, that's my
So-
husband. He's at my side
I know.
all the time. You know, it's amazing. I'm very blessed.
So some of the stuff that you had in the back that's
Hmm?
now going to be taken up by here, what are you doing with, I know you had like
Thank you. We had this beautiful raised therapy garden that the Lions
Yeah, they had.
built for us. It was like over $20,000. They built it, the kids have used it for the last 3 years, and we have loved it, we've enjoyed it. What happened was, when we decided that for our sustainability, and when we got the grant that we had the funding, I said, we have, for the long term and the big picture, we have to have a permanent storage unit someplace, and we need it on site. So what was I going to do with this beautiful raised therapy garden? I contacted Oates. It's in Oakland County, and it's a child's, it's a kid's nonprofit organization, and they use horses and animals on a farm, and they help mentally challenged and disabled children. And they use it for therapy, and they wanted to start a garden, a raised therapy garden, but they're so expensive. They really are to make. We had one sitting there, and I said, I'm not tearing this down unless I can give it to children, and it can continue the good work that it was built for. And we contacted them, and as God would have it, they were excited. They came over, they took it apart, and they took it over, and they're thrilled that they're going to now be able to use it for their nonprofit program. So it will live on. And in the back, we also had a beautiful memory garden for our angels. And we had used all that space. We had no more space back there to expand it. So now we're moving our memory garden to the front of our building against the wall there, and we will have plenty of room for all of our, because we plant a plant every year for our angels in recognition of them, because we never forget them. We never, they leave an imprint on your heart forever. And so we always want to recognize them. And now it will be open to the public, and they can all enjoy it.
What a wonderful business to have in St. Clair Shores. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. But you know what? I don't do it alone. It takes wonderful people like Councilman Frederick over here, who has been at our side, Candace Rusi, who comes and supports us and attends our galas every year. You guys have been wonderful in support of Wigs for Kids, all of you, and I really, truly appreciate it. And the kids appreciate it, and their families. I just want to add one thing. If anybody ever knows of a child that ever needs our services, please let us know. We help everyone. We charge nothing. We turn no one away, and there's no waiting. You go online, you fill out an application. I just had 2 apply today. You fill out an application. I called the parent right back. They're on the schedule for this week. There's no qualifying, so please keep that in mind. Our focus is cancer, but we also help kids with all kinds of disorders, lupus, blood disorders, hydrocephalus, dog bites, burn survivors. So for any reason they would need us, please let us know. That's what we're here for, to serve. And thank you.
Councilwoman Burgess.
Well, Dave already said all the wonderful things about what you do, and I have been very blessed to be able to attend your gala.
You did, yes,
and
last
we
year.
got beautiful paintings that night. We got 3 of them that night.
Wow, good.
But I just wanted to add that I think what you did with even the architecture and what you have planned here, thinking about the neighbors, thinking about the height and all the things that you put into it, you can just tell about the caring heart that you have, even for people that might be affected by your new structure. And so I just want to commend you for that too. I love the work that you do.
Thank you very much. It takes all of us to do it, and I was so shook up over that raised therapy garden. What was I going to do with it? And I'm so glad it found a home, and it will continue to help kids. So thank you, thank you.
Councilman Kieran.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the expansion having to expand is always a good issue to have, right? Yeah. In terms of the great services you provide. I'll do a couple of questions though for probably the architect or Liz. In terms of having to go the setback back to 4 feet from the line. I guess, Liz, from what's drove the 20-foot requirement to begin with, and kind of with this case, why is that really not needed from a site plan side of it?
I'm guessing on this one because this setback requirement was set far before I started working here. But my guess would be it probably was for providing service to the rear. So if you didn't abut a public alley, which would normally be 20 feet, then this would be that sort of space where you could take deliveries. And it would also provide a buffer as well, but as they were indicating, they've lowered the height of the addition and provided that there's the 6-foot wall plus landscaping, so those are all buffering items. They also aren't running, I'll say, like a liquor store that might be taking deliveries from trucks every day, all day long, where you would have idling vehicles that would cause a problem in that sense.
Okay. Yeah, because that's all part of having to go to ZBA, is that, what is the hardship? That you need that setback. So I think that's part of the argument of that you don't have that type of business to where that space is needed for vehicular traffic behind the building, right? And I think also too, if you were to expand it in either other direction, you're gonna be taking away parking.
Oh, I
And that,
couldn't.
right, which you
Yeah.
can't afford to do.
Right,
So,
no, I can't do
So
that.
to basically go and get that setback is the right move to do.
Yeah.
And also, since that strip of property is all yours, it's not abutting
No.
any other property, there's not any cross-through lanes, that doesn't create any traffic issues with your neighbors there, so that's good. But yeah, great job in terms of continuing to expand there. It's wonderful to see.
Good job.
Councilman Frederick.
Like we like to say, it's all about the kids, right? It's all about the
Absolutely.
kids.
That's what we do it for.
So I'm pretty sure I can make the motion on this, can I, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to move to approve the request for site plan approval for an addition to the existing building at 30130 Harper, conditioned upon obtaining a 16.9-foot rear setback variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Support.
Okay, motion by Ron, seconded by Dave. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. You have to come over and see it. If you've not been there, you have to come and see the magic that goes on inside of there.
Take the
Really.
tour. Take
You're
the
gonna have a
tour.
party.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Liz.
Okay, Liz, you're going to be helping us with the next item, agenda item number 6, request to appeal the Water Resources Board case 05-2024. So can we have the petitioners come up too, please? Okay, before Liz gets started, what I think we're going to do is Liz will give some of the background, you guys can make your appeal, and then I'll open up the floor for council to ask questions. But initially, I just like I did with Maggie, wanted to make sure you're aware of the procedural requirements tonight. Despite us being down 1 member, 4 votes are still required for the appeal, and you wish to proceed, correct? Okay, okay, great, thank you. Liz, you're familiar with the case and requirements. Can you present some of the procedural background? This isn't something we deal with quite often. And Bob Uri is also out of town, but we have Rich from his office who will be available to answer any legal type questions too.
Okay, so what you have before you tonight is an appeal from the Water Resources Board. So the city ordinances state that if the Water Resources Board renders a decision and the petitioner doesn't agree with it, they can petition to the city council to have that appealed or overturned. So what I'll do is I'll briefly go through and give you the procedures of applying to the water resources, what sorts of things need water resources approval, so that you understand the request that's going to be coming before you. So the petitioner submitted their paperwork to Eagle and the Army Corps to replace a boat hoist and an existing seawall. In the paperwork they submitted in this joint application, the drawing indicates the roof of the boat hoist will remain, but the hoist and support beams for the roof will be replaced. The joint permit was approved by Eagle and Army Corps. Once any petitioner has that approval, then they can apply to the Water Resources Board. During the Water Resources meeting, the petitioner explained that they must temporarily remove the roof structure to remove the boat hoist and to replace the seawall. Then they're going to put the roof structure back on top. The Water Resources Board approved the request to replace the seawall and replace the boat hoist but their approval was conditioned upon complying with the ordinance setbacks and walls. So they are required to have that roof structure be moved over 4 feet, and they wouldn't be able to have any what are considered walls or sides on that existing roof structure. And on one side of the structure itself, there's like 4 or 5 planks of siding that go essentially below what would be considered like the eaves of the roof. And that is what they would like to maintain. I'll show you what the picture is.
I'm willing to.
Oh, could you step up to the microphone if,
I'm not concerned with keeping those 4 or 5 panels. My concern is those top 3 or 4 on either side. It just makes it look finished.
So the Water Resources Board basically said you can put up the new seawall, you can put up the hoist, but you gotta move this roof structure over 4 feet and remove those 4 boards there. So the petitioner is before you tonight to appeal this. They want to put that roof structure right back where it is right now, which is basically on the property line. I will also show you one other, it's the aerial photograph for the property, so you can get an idea of where the existing boat hoist and roof structure is in comparison to the rest of the items on the property. So the roof structure is in the water. So it is the kind of reddish roof in the water. You can see it is immediately behind their existing garage. If you look immediately to the right of their garage, there's a white sort of rectangle. That's a carport space or a covered porch of some kind. So that doesn't have any walls in it, but that's also a roof structure as well. Let's see here, where am I? Okay. The petitioner would like to install the seawall and the boat hoist and then put the roof back in the same location where it currently exists. And if possible, would like to keep the boards, as he has clarified, that are up above on the roof part. So what is before you guys tonight? The City Council is the body who hears the appeals for the Water Resources Board decisions. When reviewing these cases, the City Council should take the following factors into consideration, and there's a lot of them. So I can go through some of them pretty quickly, some of them might take a little more time. So these are the things that you should be thinking about. The purpose of the project, length, width, direction, and materials, size of the lot and length of water frontage, the number of existing boat wells, boats, and other projects on the property and on adjacent or neighboring properties, the width of the waterway, the effect of the use of the waterway for navigation, any unusual conditions regarding the shape or location of the site along the waterway, whether the project will enhance or hinder riparian rights for themselves and their neighbors, whether it will enhance or hinder the permissible use of the lands or water, or will enhance or hinder flood risks, if it will affect lake or water levels and a related flood risk and such impact upon the proposal, whether the project complies with the requirements or limitations imposed by the ordinance. And then also please take into consideration the reason for the request and whether it's unique to the petitioner such that the special consideration is appropriate, and if there is a practical difficulty or hardship posed in the strict compliance with the terms of this ordinance. I'm here to answer any procedural questions. Obviously, the petitioner is also here to answer any questions about the specifics of the project itself.
thank you. And the ordinance criteria that Liz just mentioned are included in the packet in the last 2 pages if anyone wants to review them while they're asking their questions. But we'll let Gerald, the property owner, bring the appeal, talk to us and indicate why you were asking for this and why you think we should grant it tonight.
Sure, if you look, our seawall is on an angle, and it almost angles up to the existing boathouse, the way it is. If we move the boathouse 4 feet toward the lake, it's going to make that angle a lot sharper, making it harder to get into the house Also, if we want to get a bigger boat down the road, it'll eliminate that possibility for us. Plus the fact that if we moved it 4 feet, we'd have 4 feet of seawall to the Jefferson side, which is totally useless. We couldn't keep a boat or a jet ski or anything else there. We talked to the neighbor. He did write a letter saying it was okay with him to keep it where it's at. If the posts are an issue, we have no objection to moving the posts inward on both sides so that the posts are in. But the roof is what we're concerned with, that it stays where it's at. Another thing, if we moved it to the right, it would cut out the view from our patio there. It would be right in the middle of that patio area. And as we said on the siding issue, I have no problem eliminating those 4 or 5 extra slats, but I would like to keep it at the 2 ends, just so it looked finished for aesthetics.
Okay, thank you. Open the floor to questions. Councilman Vitale.
Thank you. You know, I sit on a couple boards within the city here, and we hear the idea of a practical hardship and things like this, and I have to say that this does to me sound like it would fit that idea of a hardship in terms of just making it harder to dock that boat.
Yes.
And I don't know what purpose is served, quite honestly, by having you move it. The other thing I would say is in terms of the siding, it's basically there just blocking support beams and things like that, which are
Yes.
unsightly anyways, so no one really wants to see that. I won't have any issue with granting a variance on this.
Councilmember Burgess.
Yes, as a fellow boat owner, and also I live on the lake, I know the importance of the exact positioning of all of that, because getting your boat in and out, especially any kind of weather, and I believe that that would be a hardship as well, to move that where the angle would be different. I know this is already something that you have, so you're making improvements on it. And so I myself would have no problem granting your request for appeal.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rebello.
Okay, so how long have you lived in this house for?
Well, I grew up there.
Okay.
62 years ago.
So that's always been there, like that boat hoist?
Actually, years ago, the property went straight to the end of the boathouse and cut in, and you entered the boathouse from the Jefferson side. About 60 years ago, my father cut that part off and made the entrance on this side.
So if you shifted that towards
The lake?
your backyard, you're going to be pretty much cutting off your entire backyard.
Well, a good part of it. Definitely the patio area where we sit all the time. It would cut off at least half of that for us to sit there to look out.
Liz, one more time, why was this denied, this part of it? It seemed like there was a few things that were okay, but this part wasn't.
They didn't deny the request, they just, in the motion, made the motion to comply with the ordinance. So the ordinance requires the structure to be 4 feet off of the property line. The idea being, it is considered existing non-conforming right now, and if you take that non-conformity away, then you have to put it back in conformance with the ordinance.
What would happen if what was your first name? I'm sorry. Jerry, what would happen if Jerry moved at some point?
If he moved at some point, this, and this were to be granted, then that runs with the property. So
So
the
that
person
fall-
can keep that boathouse where it is, wherever it is approved.
Okay, so subsequent owners of his house, this covers the whole thing.
Correct.
So people won't come back and do the same thing again right here.
Right.
Okay, another thing, and to me, this is an important part of stuff, okay? Because I think all of us up here has seen issues with neighbors on the water, okay? Your neighbor. is he okay with this? Are you working with him? Because
Yes,
the last thing I want to see is, people coming in, they're not happy, the neighbors are fighting, and it happens.
The neighbor to the left, who would be affected by the boathouse, has no problem with it remaining where it is. He wrote a letter to
Yep,
that
we have that
effect.
in writing.
Okay, right.
there is a
Are
letter.
both of them, though? That was
But
signed
then the
by,
neighbor
that was
to-
signed by his wife. Is the husband okay with that, too?
Husband and wife did
Yeah,
sign.
Are
it.
they both
signed.
on-
There's a male and a
Yes.
female signature, Dave.
Okay.
Not just the wife, the
Okay,
husband, too.
I thought, okay.
The
Go ahead.
husband and wife, the people on the lakeside have no problem with things the way they are. He didn't write a letter because it's really not affecting his view or anything with his seawall. The
Okay.
neighbor to the left is also getting a new seawall at the same time. We're both going to have new walls put in this spring.
Okay, and you guys, we'll just say one of the neighbors comes over and he says, hey, can you do this? Or can you do that? And make him maybe a little bit more happy. Are you willing to work with him on that
Sure.
type of stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
His only concern was that the corner post was moved in a little bit, so it wasn't exactly where it is now. That would give him a little more room to get in to his slip.
Is there any way that you could work
Yeah,
that
I
out
think
with him?
the post can be moved in a little bit and still support the roof on either end. It's a 22-foot roof.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just looked to the right, I never looked to the left. Okay, I see both their names on there.
So you have to do both tonight. Yeah, and once we approve this though, Dave, they have the approval to go forward with the plans as the Water Resources Board approved as we approved. So once we approve these plans, if we do, those are the plans.
Gotcha.
Okay? Okay, good?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Councilmember Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, so perhaps you can just clarify something. So in that picture there, the 3 support posts that are holding up the cover of the hoist, right?
Yes.
All those ones have to come out in order to put in the hoist?
Yes.
But those same posts are going back in?
No, it's going to be cleaned up. There's a lot of extra supports and bars on this that have been
Okay.
added over the years as things needed more support. But all that's going to be gone. He's going to put 4 new posts in and make a frame that the roof would sit down on.
Okay. All right, I think, because that was,
So it would clean
I
it up
think that was my
tremendously.
confusion going through this and even talking to some people or earlier today of, it was like some thought of that, well, it was the same post going in, so it's like, all right, well, if the same post or the posts that need to come out, then it can stay as a, bad word way to say it, but a non-conforming structure, but it's the same thing. But if there's new ones going in, that's kind of why Water Resources had to say it needs to be conforming. They're not a variance body, and that they approve, hey, do you meet the requirements or not? And so that's kind of why the appeal had to come to us. Okay, that makes sense now. But yeah, I agree with my colleagues of that the one side neighbor's okay, and it even looked like the overhead, everybody's on the property line with all the other boathouses along there.
Yes.
So that obviously was a standard at one point. And I do think in terms of if somebody else were to come in, and Liz, if they were to take down and want to do something totally new, they gotta go through this whole process again, right? It'll be the same set of rules if anyone wanted to take that down in the future.
I'm going
and
to
replace.
defer to Mr. Albright on that one because I'm not sure the answer is if they get the approval tonight and then they demolish this, can it be rebuilt at the 0-yard line?
No,
No,
it
it
would
would have
actually,
to-
it would be new construction.
Okay.
And the non-conforming status would be extinguished. But as long as the structure, if approved this evening per the applicant's request, remains, that would then run with the land, and any subsequent purchasers or owners of the property would be able to benefit from this
Right.
boathouse.
Okay,
boat
thank you.
structure.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Frederick.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. When I went out there today, Betty, thanks for walking me back there and giving me the grand tour. I guess the one thing that I was worried about is that angle, right?
Yes.
It's got to be hard even to get your boat in the way it is now, right?
We always pull it in, we don't drive it in.
Okay. And then, Liz, if you can go back to that other picture with now that boat that's there, is that
That's
your?
our boat, yeah.
That's your boat?
Yes.
And So it's not, wasn't in the hoist.
No, the hoist, with the high water, the motor went bad on the hoist, and rather than replace it, we talked about a new seawall and new hoist.
Got it,
So
got
the
it.
hoist has been inoperable since the high water.
Okay, and then all of the machinery that is, like the box and
That'll all be gone.
that's gonna be gone, so that in effect will be, that's almost a foot or foot and a half in, and then you're gonna move the support beams in or the supporting structure in as well, towards the lake.
Yes, the structure itself, I just want to keep the roof itself
Yeah.
where it is.
And you'll take those 4
Yes,
things down. And I'm sure this is gonna be engineered properly, and you'll have all the documentation to make sure that is.
I believe that Rob already did that, the seawall man.
Okay, all right. And the seawall is going just adjacent to the current one that's there, so the other one will stay there?
Yes,
And then this will be, how
right in front of this one.
how close?
He said about a foot,
About a foot?
yeah.
All right, so you're gonna be gaining a little bit on that, but that should not push the boathouse out, though, because you're still gonna have those poles on the land, right?
No, the posts will be in the water.
They're gonna be in the water, because these I think, are on the land right now, aren't they?
Yes, and that was part of the problem. It made the seawall go in, the weight of the hoist going.
Oh, got it. So then you'll actually be going back out into the canal, what,
About a foot
about a foot?
with the posts.
And I noticed that on the one you had up there before, Liz, that your property line actually is the black line that goes down the middle, so you're one of those canals where you own more
That is
than the
correct.
other side, so it's kind of going on your land anyway. Okay, and as long as the neighbor's fine with that, I don't see a problem. I think that little angle that comes out like that is that's a, you know, that is a hindrance to get your boat in there if you moved it.
Yes.
I'm not concerned about your view, nothing personal, but we don't really like to talk about views up here because everybody, you know, it's all different for everybody, right? But that is a nice little patio you got there too.
Thank you.
All right, that's all I've got, thanks.
Councilmember Vitale.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I did have another question. Doesn't really affect the case at hand. It's more a historical point. So it sounds like at one point the 0 lot line was acceptable, and then at some point it became 4 feet off the lot line. Was that just to bring commonality with garage distance to lot line or something like, was there a practical reason behind why it was changed?
Similar to the last case that occurred far before my time.
I thought it might have.
So, yeah, so I don't have an answer for you, except for the fact that common practice in zoning and other ordinances is to move stuff off the lot line
Yeah, and
over
that does,
time.
you know, and a lot of times that does make sense, gives you a way to be able to do maintenance
Right.
on your property or something like that, but, you know, no one's gonna be doing maintenance out in the canal. The second question is, at one time, I believe we allowed walls on these boathouses, because I know we've had cases in front of us where walls did exist. At some point, we made it the law of the land that you can't have those walls. What would be the reason for that?
Go ahead, say it.
The V word, view.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you for clearing that up.
Councilmember Rebello.
I just wanted to ask one more question. Is this being pushed farther out? I thought, you said 1 foot?
Yes, the seawall.
Okay, toward the microphone, please. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
The new seawall is going to be in front of the old seawall, and it's going to be approximately a foot further out. So that's pushing everything about 1 foot out.
And that's okay, Liz? Okay.
It's gonna help with that angle too.
Yes, it's common practice for when you do seawall replacement to put the new seawall waterward of the old one, and that prevents any of the land from eroding away when you're putting in the new wall.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no more pens. Do we have a motion? Oh,
Mayor Pro Tem Rusi, I would just recommend if there is a motion to approve the request, that the maker of the motion just give a reason. I know that the council has, obviously, the factors that the council is to consider, but just include that.
Yep, if you incorporate some of the ordinance criteria, that would be appreciated.
Thank you.
Now, everyone, I'll give everyone a second to look up the ordinance criteria.
Do you have a recommendation, Mr. City Attorney, of what would be based on what you've heard here tonight?
Yes, thank you, thank you. Under section 2-197, subsection 4, it does provide any unusual conditions regarding the shape or location of the subject site/lot along the waterway. That might be a consideration that the council would be using to grant the gentleman's request this evening.
Okay. I would make that motion.
Okay, and with the reason cited by the city attorney?
That is
And
section 2-197, subsection 4.
Okay, and that addresses the setback issue, but what about the planks on the wall that constitute a,
And to remove the planks.
To remove the
Just the 4 below the, what would look like the soffit, below the soffit.
okay, is there support for that?
I support.
Okay, so we move by Councilman Frederick, second by Councilwoman Burgess, for the motion as described by Rich.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yep, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Okay, agenda item number 7, resolution to accept the award of the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, or SAFER grant, should the application be successful. I think that would be Dustin tonight.
Yep. So in front of you is a resolution to accept the SAFER grant should the application be successful. As discussed at our work study session, this is a zero matching grant for the city, if fully funded through FEMA with no requirement of retaining the staff beyond the 3-year period of the grant. The grant amount is $1,478,932.86. And this resolution is pretty much stating that if we do achieve the grant, that we will accept it, and as well as giving myself, the city manager, to be able to sign off on any paperwork that is needed.
Hey, question, the application has already been submitted, there's, I don't think, any sort of redoing after the submission period closes and the application is submitted. What is the purpose, where is this letter going, this resolution going?
So this resolution would be part of their evaluation process. So they evaluate all the applications, and then they like to have this submitted so they understand that the city is willing to accept the grant if the city is so be accepted from the grant.
Okay, I do have a couple of little nitpicks about some of the language.
Okay.
It's a very short one, but one, the recommended motion states to accept the SAFER grant should the city of St. Clair Shores be selected in July. It says that, actually, if you look at the notice of opportunity, a lot of the granting may be happening in August. So we don't want to just limit it to July, given it could be accepted in August. It does state in the first whereas paragraph, the city is actively pursuing grant opportunities to help reduce the overall costs and financial impacts on the city to expand services. I think the point of this grant isn't necessarily to expand services, it's pursuant to the notice of funding opportunity to help communities meet industry minimum standards that attain 24-hour staffing to provide adequate fire protection from fire and fire-related hazards, not necessarily for expanding services beyond what we already offer. So we might want to rephrase that, because I don't think expansion is what the purpose of this grant is. The title ends in a period, which it shouldn't. And the now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of St. Clair Shores. This is why I had other people do the do the proclamations, by the way. This is how I read them. That the city shall accept the FEMA SAFER grant in the amount of, there's the amount, it doesn't state if awarded. It says that we shall accept it, period. It doesn't state if rewarded. We have not been awarded that yet. It's only signed by the mayor, not by council, and no indication, just says passed and adopted by city council. Usually they say who says yes, who says no, who abstains, and this one lacks that, so.
So, Councilwoman Rusi, it is not, as you stated, it is not to expand our services. However, as part of the grant, one of the large parts is for the SAFER grant is a direct response to fire services, not EMS services. And one of the responsibilities is making sure that we actually have an additional person on the fire rig. So we had to strategically, so it's not necessarily expanding services, but it's giving that additional service of that additional firefighter being on that fire rig.
I say we might want to reword that.
Yeah, I can reword it, but
Expand
that was-
services makes it sound like you're going to expand the services beyond what they are, and that's not necessarily what is occurring or the purpose of the grant. Okay, I'll open the floor for questions. Councilmember Karen.
Thank you. So I know Dustin had said that this was discussed at the study session on March 11th, and it was not discussed at the subsequent meeting on March 18th or April 1st, both of which would have been prior to the deadline to submit the application to FEMA for the SAFER grant, which ended up happening on April 9th, apparently. So what was discussed at the March 11th meeting was we were talking about increasing staffing primarily to make sure ambulances were always being fully staffed. That discussion was not about having an additional person on a truck. And we were also not given any information regarding the SAFER grant at that meeting. We were subsequently emailed a document the following day that had all the requirements. And again, it was not brought back up at the March 18th meeting. It was not brought back up at the April 1st meeting. Prior to the application being submitted on April 9th. What we also received early in that day, but I don't think many of us had a chance to read it, was a letter from the firefighters union. A couple snippets that came out from that was the goal of the SAFER grant is to increase the department's ability to comply with NFPA 1710, which is a federal regulation. And basically, in what they were stating was, in order to comply with that, we need to have 5 firefighter staff per engine. We currently have 2. So even adding the 1, if this was a for fire truck, again, we're originally talking about trying to make sure ambulances were staffed, but if it's for a fire truck, we wouldn't meet that requirement. And actually even states, the chances of being awarded a grant for 3 firefighters is highly unlikely, as SAFER heavily weighs the department's ability to meet NFPA 1710 prior to the award and after the award is given. So even the firefighters union itself was not aligned with administration bringing this forward. So the reason why we like to get grant applications forward, because it gives us an opportunity to go through and just kind of see what potential issues there are. As you can see, I found many. Not actually going to look for any response of any of these tonight because the grant's already been submitted prior to council doing any type of approval of it or having any real detailed discussion with the requirements. So again, start with what the objectives were in this document. Was to basically assist local firefighters with staffing deployment capabilities to respond to emergencies and ensure communities have adequate protection from fire and fire-related hazards. Again, we were not talking about 3 additional people for fire. We were talking about 3 additional people for ambulances. It actually has performance measures we're going to have to meet. The grant recipient is required to collect data to allow FEMA to measure performance of the awarded grant in support of the SAFER program metrics. Percentage of majority career SAFER program recipients who are reported and provided evidence that the grant funding increased compliance with the structural fire responses that comply with National Fire Protection Association 1710 structural response standards. Again, talking about fire response, not ambulances. We are specifically talking about ambulances at the study session that was referenced. An application submitted by an otherwise eligible non-federal entity may be deemed ineligible when the person submitted the application is not, 1, a current employee, personnel, official, staff, leadership of the non-federal entity, or duly authorized to apply for an award on behalf of the non-federal entity at the time of the application, which would have been April 9th. This is coming before us on April 15th. And then also in terms of what is the National Incident Management System implementation, another requirement in here. Safer program applicants are not required to comply with the NIMS to apply for the Safer Program funding or to receive the Safer Program award. Any applicant who receives a fiscal year 2023 Safer Program award must achieve the level of NIMS compliance required by the authority having jurisdiction or the applicant's emergency operations, IG local government. Apparently that's us. Don't even know what that compliance is and how do we determine whether we meet that, because wasn't discussed, wasn't brought up at that meeting. FEMA will not review applications that were received after the deadline or consider these late applications for funding. Again, we're approving a resolution supposedly for it after it's already all been submitted. And agreeing to terms and conditions of the award. By submitting an application, the applicants agree to comply with the requirements of this NOFO and the terms and conditions of the award should they receive the award. Again, it was done by administration, not by the council, to approve submitting the application. Again, unless thinking if it gets approved today, maybe that's okay. But again, it's after the award was already done. Oh, other fun stuff that are in here. Content form application submissions. There's several forms that would have been submitted, none of which any of us received, because again, tonight, what did we receive in terms of this ask? Oh yeah, that's right, 2 pages. That's all we got, 2 pages. So several of the forms that had to go in, SF 424, application for federal assistance, a grants.gov lobbying form, SF 424A, budget information for non-construction, SF 424B for standard assurances, SF LLL, disclosure of lobbying activities. All that would have been submitted, none of it that we've seen. Program-specific required forms are all required. There are funding restrictions. All costs, charges, award covered by the NOFO must comply with uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, audit requirements. I'm assuming someone looked through that. Again, don't know. We haven't even seen what got submitted. More stuff that could come after if we are awarded. This is interesting. We're required to provide to FEMA copies of official or certified documents demonstrating the claimed financial need. I wonder what that financial need is. I think we just got our budget tonight. Maybe there's something in there, but in the past, we've met the hiring responsibilities that we've had for the department. So I'm just wondering, what did we claim was our financial need? I know in other applications where we've submitted for other grants, we are not a disadvantaged community, and so we don't really qualify there. So again, don't know what we're going to say is our financial need. We're to provide copies of a risk analysis conducted to ascertain how said project will address the applicant's unique needs in alignment with their missions of the Safer Program grant purposes. I don't know if I got the risk analysis in there done. Oh, this is actually in bold. FEMA conducts reviews of a random sampling of applications to compare them for duplication, including the narrative statements and statistical data. Therefore, all elements of the narrative statements must be specific and unique to the applying entity, and all statistical data must be accurate. Again, we didn't see the application. I don't know if we've complied with that, but we've had history of zoning documents, zoning plans being copied and pasted from other zoning plans and other zoning documents from a few different planning firms, engineering firms. So hopefully we didn't do that, and we did have unique information. I just thought this was funny. Do not type the narrative statements using only capital letters. Apparently federal government has to point that kind of stuff out. How is this being scored? Basically 30% is a project description, so basically how that narrative was written. Why does the department need positions requested in this application? How will the positions requested in this application be used within the department, i.e. 4th firefighter engine? Nope, we're only going to 3, apparently, even though we talked about ambulances. We're going to open a new station? Nope, we're not using it for a new station. We're using our own money or ARPA money for that. Eliminate browned out stations? Not doing that. You can't use it to reduce overtime. So that's not a part of that. And on what unique and specific services will be requested positions provide the fire department? Nope, we're just wanting to make sure the hours are filled. We're not going to do anything new, unique, so I don't think we'll score very well there. Impact on daily operations. How are the community and current firefighters employed in the department at risk without the positions requested in this application? How will that risk be unequivocally reduced if awarded? I'm wondering if, in order to get points on that one, we had to say that we're endangering our firefighters every day because of the current staffing we had. And I just wonder what our liability would be if that statement was used. Again, don't know. Weren't given what was submitted. And then 30% is financial need. Provide an income versus expenses breakdown of the department's current annual budget. I know in terms of income, we just have ambulance revenue that we categorize as the fire department income, but everything else gets funded through tax dollars and general fund. So that should balance. It's balanced all the time in the past. So again, don't know what the financial need was there. Describe the department's precise budget shortfalls and inability to address financial needs without federal assistance. Love to see what that got filled out with, because I'm not aware of those. Describe what other actions the department has taken to obtain funding elsewhere, state assistance program, other grant programs. Outside of the Quint, I'm not aware of many. And then notice of the award. Again, another thing, nice bold letters. Recipients must accept all conditions of the NOFO as well as any specific terms and conditions in the notice of the award to receive the award under this program. Again, someone else went and submitted it. Council didn't approve that. And then we get into wonderful dealing with the federal government. Ensuring the protection of civil rights. There's a interesting clause in here. Federal civil rights statutes such as Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, along with FEMA regulations, prohibit discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, religion, age. Here's where we run into a problem. Disability, limited English proficiency. It's a physically demanding job, so that the disability is going to be an issue. Limited English proficiency is an issue because they need to be able to communicate, obviously. But again, it's because we're doing the federal award. Who actually read the fine print to know all this? Another interesting one, the Department of Homeland Security has a standard terms and conditions include a fuller list of civil rights provisions that apply to the recipients. These terms and conditions must be found in, and there's a link, at the DHS Standard Terms and Conditions page. So that's not even a law. It's not an act. It's not something passed by Congress. It's just something the Department of Homeland Security puts out. So I have no idea what's in that. Hopefully somebody looked at it. Then we get into all the fun reporting requirements. So we have financial reporting requirements. We have to do a federal financial report. Looks like that has to be done twice a year. We have to do program performance reporting requirements. That has to be done twice a year. Again, of showing how we're meeting the goals, supposedly of better staffing a fire truck when everything we talked about was staffing ambulances. So again, don't know what would get reported there. What's the other things here? Some of the other things were about building buildings, which we're not doing, so I can skip those parts. Then there's a big section regarding audits. And basically, this would also open up to the Department of Homeland Security, Office of Inspector General, and the General Accounting Office of the federal government. That they would basically be allowed to do little drop-in desk interviews, desk reviews to make sure everything's being complied with. I'm assuming from an audit standpoint, we do have a single audit requirement that we do for CDBG for a federal program. I'm assuming this would also be included, but again, didn't get to go through that or even find out if we talked to the auditors about it because the application was just done without us being able to go through it. Examples of ineligible applications. A couple of interesting points here. State or local agencies or subsets of any government entities or any authorities that do not meet the requirements as defined in 15 U.S.C. Section 229A, Clause A, Subsection 1, Clause capital A, and A-2. They didn't even put a title of what that law is. Hopefully someone looked it up. Probably not. And then right below it actually has, Ambulance services, emergency medical service organizations, rescue squads, auxiliaries, dive teams, urban search and rescue teams are not eligible. Again, we talked about ambulances, and that's one of the ineligible categories. In terms of there's funding priorities of how you meet national standards. Again, it's per what the firefighters had said. That's the goal of this whole Safer grant. We've got no plan to meet their standard, even though we're asking for their money. Again, don't know what was submitted. Another interesting thing, firefighter health measures. The health and well-being of firefighters is of paramount importance. Therefore, applicants who indicate newly hired firefighters will undergo an entry-level physical and receive immunizations, and who indicate that they will provide annual medical exams, receive higher consideration than applicants who do not specify these benefits will be provided. So if you want more points, you gotta basically turn over our employees' health information if they get hired under this program. In terms of interesting thing under eligible cost, Safer program grant funds will only pay for operational positions in all three categories. The primary assignment, more than half is on a fire suppression vehicle regardless of collateral duties. So again, if they wanted to do split time between a fire truck and ambulance, really only wants them to be put on a fire truck. Last, get the very interesting, absolute very last sentence of this whole packet. After reading this, I finally got to this about midnight last night. FEMA strongly encourages applicants to the extent practical to seek, recruit, hire military veterans to increase their ranks within their departments. That's actually something I fully agree with, fully endorse, and I know we've actually done that in the past. So, to my colleagues, this is the administration trying to cover themselves. They didn't want to have a discussion again. They didn't provide any of the information. They had two opportunities to bring this back for an actual approval where this could have been correctly gone through and debated and not covered afterward. So I'm going to vote no on the resolution. Firefighters said it's unlikely we're going to receive their grant with what we're being asked to do. And I just strongly protest how this came back at this meeting. Administration had two other chances to bring it forward, and they didn't. So I'm going to be a no.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer some of those questions that I find. So for the individuals here, we had a work study session. During that work study session, we did talk a lot about what you mentioned, and a lot of that is the EMS coverage. But we also mentioned, and as you stated it here in your letter as well from the firefighters, that in order to be the most successful in applying for the Safer grant, you do have to really structure that grant writing to be for the fire engine. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to significantly help our EMS issues. So when we're writing a grant, we are trying to achieve the most points possible. This goes for all of our grants. When we're writing a grant for the DNR, we're writing a grant for any one of our SLRF loans, for funding for any of our water infrastructure, sewer infrastructures. You are emphasizing as many points as you can get. So when you're writing a grant, you do that. Ultimately as well, council does not see any of those grants before they come before you. Those grants are all submitted. The DNR grants, the SLRF grants, every one of those are submitted on behalf of the grant writers and or our staff that are submitting those. Dave is always up here beating the drum, grants, grants, grants. He asked us again tonight, what are we going to do with the grants? So when we were given the initiative from council at that work study session to apply for the Safer grant.
Hold on.
At that point.
Hold on. There's no vote at that meeting, and I didn't hear consensus. Unless there was a consensus communicated afterward. Because I remember I stated I was against it. I remember the mayor saying he agreed with me. I'm not sure which part he did agree with, but he said he agreed with me, but we didn't have a consensus. Those study sessions that we've done in the past, it was based on consensus before direction was taken. In that. I didn't hear consensus at that meeting. Unless other people came to you afterward and said behind the scenes, oh yeah, this is okay. Yeah, this will go ahead. If you took direction on that, that might be an Open Meetings Act violation. I don't know. But again, and in terms of the other grants you mentioned, we do have public hearings on those. We do agree to apply those when there was grants, so we've had votes about which grants we apply for, because we have a matching requirement.
Because there's a matching requirement, that's a big key there, yes. With this, there is no matching requirement. And I will say, at that meeting, the indication and the direction that was received was, in my opinion, I could have been wrong, from my opinion, was the majority of individuals up here was proceed with the grant at that meeting. So obviously, as you know, we don't take votes. It's proceeding with the grant. We're not subjecting, putting the city up to any acceptance at all. We're just proceeding with the grant writing. At that point, our police chief worked with the fire union to try to make the strategic to get as many points that we could during that grant process.
Wait,
So-
the police chief?
That's the fire chief. Fire
Okay,
chief.
okay.
And then to answer some of your other questions in regards to, yes, we already do a single audit. We also already do all the requirements that is stated. We have to do a lot of the same things in the reporting with the DLEF funds. We have to do the same funding with a lot of our other fundings that we do receive as a city. When it comes to CDBG, we have the same similar requirements. We have to do a lot of individual auditing and reporting to the federal government. Any money that you receive from the federal government, that's bullet point language that you're gonna see in any one of those. So those are very similar aspects of a lot of the responsibilities that we already do. So it's not any different for the fire chief to have to go through than what our police chief will go through, what our planning department will go through, what our DPW director will go through when we're receiving any kind of federal funding.
With any of the other grants that we have, all those provisions that I just pulled out, I may have only read about 10% of the whole, or read out loud about 10% of the whole document. The fact that that says by just applying, you're signing up your organization for all of that without a vote is troublesome. You know, so you can take an issue with nitpickiness or whatever, all the stuff I pulled out, but with something like that, something new of where there was not, I did not hear clear direction. Again, could have been communicated outside of it, could have been interpreted, whatever. For that not to come back either on the 18th or the 1st was saying, this is what we're doing. Because it was evident that night, you know, as the chief said that night, oh, the window just opened today, March 11th. They got 30 days to do it. No, didn't come back at either meeting. Very easily could have.
I guess, in terms of some of the research I conducted in trying to understand the procedural nature of what we were being asked to do tonight, I did find a number of other communities that during the application process included within their application a resolution passed by a vote of their local governing body, their council, et cetera, authorizing the submission of an application. So I know other communities have done that, made that part of their application. Do you know why we weren't asked to do that to accompany our application, a written document that we vote on, memorializing and granting our authorization to make the application?
For a lot of grants, it is required, and it'll say, hey, here's a resolution, please submit it. For this grant, it was not required.
They were done for this grant. I'm not
Yeah,
saying it was a requirement, but
correct.
I'm saying it was something that other communities felt was important to obtain and include.
Correct. So it was not a standard requirement that was asked. After doing the submittal process and going through everything, at that point, it was determined, because it was a work study session, to John's point, that there was direction given to council. There was no official vote. So then it was like, okay, hey, it wasn't required, there was no resolution. But in order for me, as a city manager, to be able to sign off on any acceptance or any awards that are going forward, we looked at creating a resolution, hence why the resolution is in front of council. But there was no resolution that was required as part of the submittal process. That's why it didn't get kicked back. It's why nothing happened. It was the direction that council gave that night to apply for the grant.
And I guess my second question, when, like I said, going through my packet and trying to determine the procedural nature of this was, if this is just to authorize you to accept and sign, why wouldn't this be brought to us in July or August when the grants are awarded, if and when we do get the award, versus April 15th?
It was just asked to be, we put it on.
And in terms of John's question about, or statement about split time, where we could put one of these, we could put these firemen, having them do EMS duties too, up to 50% of the time as a non-safer grant type activity. Would any ambulance fees generated by their work on that ambulance count toward program income that would then have to be accounted for and deducted from the award of the safer grant? Because I know there's this whole thing about program income. There's this whole thing in the federal regulations, and sometimes income derived from programs like the safer grant, you do have to account for and deduct from the award as something generated from what you're funding using the award.
So and I'll kind of answer that question too, and answer some of the other questions that you mentioned as well. When you said, we're not a low to moderate income community, we don't have any financial implications, but you also wrote in there numerous standards of how many firefighters that the National Firefighters Recommendation requires and how low we were on that number. There is some financial risk there by trying to get up to that number that we wouldn't be able to fit in our budget. So there is some financial risk in there. The other aspect as well to come back is when you're strategically putting a grant together, we're putting that grant together to achieve the most awarded points. That grant is being stated that we need additional firefighters out there, which according to the standards we do. However, in our community and most other communities, the EMS and the firefighters department is one department. We don't have a separate EMS crew. So because we are one department, a lot of our firefighters do they are firefighters and EMS. So getting that additional staff will also benefit our EMS, but they're there to fight fires per the grant award.
Correct. That's why I was asking about the ambulance fees generated with those constitute program income pursuant to 200.307 of the second CFR.
And without the fire chief being here, I wouldn't be able to completely answer that question unless I don't feel comfortable. Right?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Councilman Rebello.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the things I'd like to know. Had fire department representation here. Okay, so I'm gonna, I guess, take this in its most simplest form. I'm just, not that Councilman Karen didn't have any good points, but I just wanted to go through some of this here. And correct me, jump in where this doesn't make sense. Staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. That's what SAFER means, okay? The Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant, SAFER, was created to provide funding directly to fire departments and volunteer firefighter departments, firefighter interest organizations to help them increase or maintain the number of trained frontline firefighters available in their communities. Is there anything, Mr. City, okay, is there anything that's not right? Okay, I just want to go through this. This is one more paragraph. The goal of SAFER is to enhance the local fire department's abilities to comply with staffing, response, and operational standards established by, and there's a bunch of acronyms here. So I just wanted to know, is there anything wrong with that? Is that wrong? I'm taking something off the internet, so, off of FEMA.
No, that's correct. No, that's correct.
Okay, I just want to sort of get to the basis, to simplify stuff a little bit. Okay, the need for staffing was presented at the council work study session on March 11th, 2024, where the SAFER grant was also discussed as a potential funding mechanism.
That's correct.
Okay. Economic impact. There is a zero matching grant for the city that is fully funded by FEMA with no requirement of retaining staffing beyond the 3-year period of the grant.
That is also
So
correct.
I take that as the city's not on the hook for 1 penny.
We're not.
Okay. The grant amount, okay, we went through that. Okay, and then Councilman Karen had a letter, it was from the fire department, I didn't quite catch that.
Firefighters.
The firefighters, okay. The fire department, is that different than the firefighters? I don't.
Legally,
okay.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
This is what this recommendation, the fire department recommends that the city accept the grant should we be awarded in July, I think, Mayor Pro Tem Candace brought that up,
It could
July?
be August.
Okay, August, to fully fund 3 full-time firefighters / paramedics for a period of 3 years. Is that our intention?
It is, and I do want to kind of tie off of the union letter. Speaking, I don't want to speak for the union, but if that letter wanted 6 individual staffing, they felt the 3 wasn't adequate enough, and they wanted 6, and they thought we had a better chance, and it states in there, we have a better chance of achieving that award if we go for 6. At that point, when we kind of mentioned that briefly during our work study session, it was, we didn't want to be on the hook for 6 individuals. 3 was, hey, let's try to see if we can get 3 individuals because it would benefit. So in order to strategically, because with 6, it does do 2 things. It helps with the EMS, but it also puts additional staffing onto the fire truck. We are not responsible for after 3 years. However, in reality, when you hire an individual, it is a very hard position to put anybody in up here to say, hey, after the 3 years, if we are not successful in obtaining the grant again to continue the funding, we do have 3 individuals that what are we going to do with? And the answer most likely is nobody up here is going to say we're going to lay off individuals. I don't want to speak for the group, but that's reality. So at that point, that's when we said, there is no financial impact for the first 3 years. After the first 3 years, if that grant is not renewed, that will be up to council, if it's not renewed, to continue the employment. Now, during the 3 years, you could definitely have nutrition, where you have individuals who are retiring, and it may not be anybody losing their job. But once you go to the service of 3 additional firefighters, losing 3 additional firefighters is a change of service to the community. So, is there any direct impact? No. But that's why it was brought in front of council at that work study session and said, we are looking for direction.
So after 3 years, we can say, nada.
Council could, yes.
We don't want to do it no more.
For sure.
Okay, 2 more questions. What's the implications of, first of all, for you, because I always ask this question, if this was passed tonight with all the things Councilman Karen said, are we doing anything illegal? I ask Bob that all the time. No, I ask him all the time.
Bob's never said yes.
You're right, he never.
No.
Okay.
You're not going to start
And the third thing is, the second point is to maybe answer some of Councilman Karen's questions that he has. Midnight's an awful long time to
And
be
to clarify,
reading. Huh?
I didn't have any questions. I was just pointing out problems I've got with what is in that document. That's all.
Opened up potential issues.
If we
point out potential
opened up
issues.
potential issues, if we were to take this and table this until the next meeting, so we could discuss this further, is there any implications to this? Are we?
There's not.
No, it's not going to be awarded until July at the earliest.
Okay.
So we have plenty of meetings before then. I would also recommend, if we do table this, to next time have fire department representation who might be able to speak better to these, and also
Thank
to
you.
us have a copy of the application that was submitted.
Because I would like to.
So we see the statements that were made and see the actual application. I think that might help address some of Councilman Karen's points too.
Yes, because I would like to see a fire representation too. So
Yeah, once you table,
Right,
it
Chris
cuts
is-
off speaking, everyone's had the opportunity to
Capiche.
speak yet, so.
Okay.
Okay. Councilman Vitale?
I was going to ask that it is reasonable to expect, and you kind of addressed this, that we're going to have 1 to 2 retirements over the next 3 years. could this not be looked at as, and I kind of thought of this idea when we were talking about in the whereas and the expand and everything like that. Is this not just succession planning in a way? That we roll experienced people into jobs who we otherwise would have to then go out and hire? And they would have their training period and things like that.
Yes, for the, when you were writing the grant though, because obviously we are writing the grant to improve our response times along with adding additional people to meet the NAAF standards. In practicality, 100% we're getting 3 additional firefighters hired earlier, trained earlier, and on the staff earlier. And if the council in 3 years from now determines we are not replacing, because for 3 years we'd have to keep our staff at its current level plus 3. At the end of that 3 years, if council were to determine we are no longer interested in the SAFER grant, we want to go back to our current staff through nutrition, 100% we would not have to hire those individuals. You would actually have the authority at that time too to actually lay off those individuals.
Do we have a memorandum of understanding of staffing level for fire department?
We do.
That's still in existence?
It is still in existence.
Because I know it couldn't be in millage requested.
Yeah, it's been re-upped every millage with the department.
Okay. It is in there.
Councilman Frederick.
Thank you. So, John, I guess I remember some of this different because, and I'll tell, and I know. I've been asking for us to apply for the SAFER grant for probably the last 6 years. And the last 2 really pressing for it. In fact, calling the chief and saying, is it time yet? Is it time yet? And I do remember when we were talking about asking for 6 people. And I think the consensus for 3 happened when I did that. Because everybody goes, oh no, 3. To me, that's consensus, right? So I think we did have a consensus. And I guess I was happy to see this in the packet because it's almost $1.5 million of FEMA money coming to us to hire 3 people to help our residents. Potentially with, no match. I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. Why wouldn't we do this, right? And I know we have attrition, and I did do some research on that, and, attrition can be fine because you're keeping the people that you hired. And, at some point with the amount of runs going up, not only for ambulance, but for, seems like the last few years, fire as well, that, we're going to be at a point where we're going to probably have to look at higher staffing numbers anyway. So to me, this was a great way to get us to that point. And frankly, I mean, the residents reward us up here budget-wise every single time we ask them to when it comes to a police and fire millage. And usually vote, I think the last one was a 75% to 25% passage of that. So if we ever had consensus, whether it was us up here or residents at home, I say, I think it's pretty clear that we should be doing this. And John, I understand the process. You had the process was not exactly to your liking. I get that. Maybe we did some things, that weren't exactly the way you thought they were going to go. But it sounds like that it was all legal, and it was all done, and we do it that way with other grants. And I'm hoping we can even just get this passed tonight and be done. And let's get it in the packet, send it out to FEMA. In fact, I would make that motion before Dave makes a table motion.
Okay, is there any support to that?
I would support that.
Okay, and you're raising your pen?
Yeah, I actually did have 2 more items that I intended to raise. I do agree with John's point that there were 2 prior council meetings that this could have been brought. That probably falls on administration, and I hope you or our new HR representative will address that, because it sometimes does seem like a pattern. I believe it was at that same meeting, and by the way, my recollection does fall in line with Councilman Frederick, that 6 was talked about, 3 was talked about, and 3 was kind of agreed to, was my understanding. But also at that same meeting, we talked about ambulance rates.
We did.
Can we make that an action item for follow-up
Yes.
to see where we're at on ambulance rates in terms of what is allowed per Medicare, et cetera?
And I will say, we have been working on budget. We've, actually, that's been one of the topics, and we are looking at bringing something in front of council.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion on the table. Now, I'm looking for clarification. Is this, maker of the motion is Ron? Is this the resolution as included in the packet?
Well, included with the changes that were mentioned, like take the period off the end of the,
Change its band and include, now
get
therefore, if
August.
awarded.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and you support that, Chris?
Yes, maybe training opportunities is something, I don't know if that works or not, but yes, with all of the call-outs that Mayor Pro Tem Rusi made tonight.
Okay, Abby, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Frederick.
Aye.
Councilmember Vitale.
Aye.
Councilmember Burgess.
Aye.
Councilmember Karen.
No.
Councilmember Rubello.
Aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Rusi.
I'm a nay. I would prefer to have tabled this so we can have fire department representation, get a copy of the application first.
We can still do that.
Passes.
We can still do that.
Okay, thank you.
Passes 5-2.
Yeah. 4-2. Unless your ear was ringing with Kip's vote, I don't think that would count anyway. Okay, now we have, let me get back to my place. Agenda item 8, bids, contracts, and purchase orders. 8A, request to award the contract for the Stevens Road Water Main Project. I think we're bringing up Mike Freckleton, the city engineer, who will be presenting. This is for Stevens Road Water Main Project between Lil Mac and just a little bit, I think, past Ursuline.
Yes.
And this will include the replacement of around 1,650 feet of 12-inch and 8-inch water main by a method of pipe bursting, directional drilling, and sections of open cut.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Would you like to present some of the overview and background of this? Then we'll open up for questions.
Absolutely. So the water main that currently exists in that section of Stevens is a 1955 water main. We are proposing to upgrade it from 8-inch to 12-inch, and by upgrading this size, it will provide better fire and water service flows for the businesses and subsequent residential, homes that are serviced by this water main. We opened bids for this project last Tuesday. Bidigary Contracting came in as the low bid with a bid of $745,520. The engineer's estimate for this project was just over $1 million, so the bid was quite lower than that. The communication that we've had with Bidigary, they said that they should be able to get to the project around mid-June and be completed within 2 to 3 weeks. Our requirement was that they are done by no later than August 15th because we want this project to be completely wrapped up by the time the tip project starts on Stevens, which is a large-scale patching project. And that will also help to repair any of the, pavement that needs to be removed for water service transfers as a part of this project. So we are asking that we award Bidigary this project from their base bid of $745,520 with a 10% construction contingency for a total of $820,072.
Okay, now this came in considerably less than the engineer's estimate, which is kind of an unusual circumstances lately. Do we feel that these prices are accurate and that they'll be able to do the work for the prices that they are swearing they can?
Yes, so we had 5 bids for this project, and 4 out of the 5 were lower than the engineer's estimate.
Okay, so maybe the engineer just misestimated a little bit.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, that's a Better than what usually happens up
For
here,
sure.
where it's estimated wrong in the opposite direction. One question I did have with going through the bid specs was this was something I don't think I've noticed this in previous bid specs. I was looking at the ones for Rhode Island we did last year, for example. And for mobilization and the audio-visual, like video survey, we're now putting in maximum amounts that they're allowed to bid. That's a little bit different. This says mobilization, this is just the first item, max 45,000, and then audio-visual route survey, max 5,000. I haven't seen us put maximum amounts in bid specs before.
So generally with mobilization, and most MDOT projects would be this way too, the maximum you're gonna have is, like, allowable is 10%. So, and then audio visual, that's just kinda.
Yeah,
That's kinda, per the project, that is never, that much, but.
Yeah, it's unusual. I haven't seen us call out maximums like that before. So I was
Okay.
just wondering if that was a new trend or what the change was. Like I said, I looked up the Rhode Island Street one from last year, and we didn't include maxes. We had those first two items in the bid specs.
So actually calling out the maximum is more common. So to answer your question, I'm not entirely sure why that was not done before. But, yeah, usually specifying a dollar amount that's no more than 10% is common for construction
Okay,
projects.
so we'll see that going forward.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I like it.
Okay, Councilman Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, so in terms of, this project's a little more complex, I think, than other ones we've done. In terms of needing pipe bursting, directional drilling, and trenching. So where's a directional drill required? Because I would assume there's not a pipe there to begin with.
Brian, do you know where the directional drill is required? Okay. Yeah, so generally directional drills are done at road crossings, so it probably would be at the side street crossing. So there's Harmon, it's Coverness, one of them over there on Stevens.
Well, Ursuline comes through, but then it's a
And then
straight
we
shot.
would
Coverness
be,
and Star Valley,
Yeah.
but Star Valley rolls
Yeah.
right into Coverness.
but then Ursuline, we would probably be open cutting, because I believe we're connecting that new water main that we just
Okay.
did to
Are there
the
many
new one
service
there, so.
leads off of the Stevens one?
There would be one for each business.
Just the businesses,
Yeah.
but not as dense as what we have on the street.
Correct.
And that's probably kind of why bid may come in a bit less in terms of, and also that they think they can get it done in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
which that would be astounding if we had a water main project done in 3 weeks.
Bit of Gary thinks they can do it,
I
so.
didn't believe him either.
And in terms of, what about temporary water service while this is going on? Because having to have, well, they're currently, it's all 8-inch now, so it'd be typical above-ground water service to those businesses while this is going on?
So, most of the time, we try to leave everything in service as long as we can. They'll, get all the pipe ready and fused and pre-chlorinated above ground. So, once they're ready to go, they can just go. So it will either be a very, it'll be a very short water shut off, or we will have the services set up above ground.
Is Stevens unique that can kind of get done in stages in terms of water shutting off? Because we're used to having to do a whole street, and we've got an extra line that's pressurized on the street and basically being tied into the side faucets of the houses to feed the water in, right? That's what we're used to seeing.
Right.
So I'm just kind of wondering with this, what the type of area it is, how all those businesses are still going to be serviced during that time? Or if it's just in terms of being inconvenienced for a day or something that they have to get shut down.
I believe the intention is just a very short-term inconvenience, but I will confirm that for you and
And
get
make
back
sure
to
that
you.
the AEW site people are regularly communicate with the businesses when that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And that, so, okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Rubella.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is one of these things, I think this came up before, and some of the price swings on these are like, okay, so we take the water main connection 8-inch, okay? And it's sort of mystifying sometimes that, okay, bid of Gary, their unit price is $5,000. And then the other guy here, Paymar, is 9,000. Why is there such swings like that?
That's just how they choose to estimate their projects. I mean, some, but ultimately, the cheaper they give us a unit price, if that's what they choose to do to win the contract, that really benefits us more than anything. If they wanna lowball themselves on a particular line item, I mean, that's really no harm to us. We're getting the work done for cheaper. So, I mean, I can't answer exactly why that is. It's just how the contractors, estimators decide to
I mean, it's
bid their
spotted
projects.
all in these bids. And I think Mayor Pro Tem Ruth, I think we discussed this before when these things pop up like this. It's just sort of bizarre. One thing I wanted to at least bring up is on May 26th, where is your stuff going to be on Stevens Road? Because we have a parade and we use Stevens Road. And it's sort of important. That's like an artery, how people get into that area. So
they are not anticipating on starting the project until at the earliest mid-June. So
okay, so
that should be no issue.
So no pre-parking.
okay, will you please put a note on that?
I will ensure that, yes.
First time ever, going to tell them not to start a project early.
Well, we're getting blasted on 11 Mile Road, right? It's right in the middle of the school year, So, okay, with that, I will move to award the Stevens Road Water Main Replacement Project to Gary Contractors in the amount of $745,520 with a 10% contingency for a total award of $820,072.
Support.
No change.
It's a motion by Rebel, supported by Frederick. Ron?
Yeah, I just had a question. So do we know what side of the street this is on? Is it on?
North side.
It's on the north side. Okay, so I guess I was concerned when I was looking at it today. I know that we're ripping up the Civic Arena right now, putting the new driveway in, and we've got all the fence down. And I'm just wondering, is there anything over there that we need to do something with water-wise? I know there's a drinking fountain going over there, and that's just pretty small. But I guess I'm just wondering, does that pipe continue down Stevens on the north side, and does that feed anything, past that? And how old is that pipe? If we can check. If you don't know, it's fine. We don't care.
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but like the project limits are Ursuline, and I believe the Civic Center is to the west of that.
It
So
is.
I don't think anything would be interrupted by that.
Well, I wasn't thinking interruption. I was thinking, since we're kind of ripping that place apart now, because I think that's why we're doing this early, because of the tip project that's coming down Stevens to get the underground in before that happens.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and Dustin?
Yeah, the nice thing too is, Council member, we just did Ursuline's water main, so that actually serviced right into the ice arena and the senior center. So we did have a decent amount of disruption during that time where we had to turn off restrooms and all that kind of stuff. But now that that is completed, that's a brand-new road, brand-new water main that is there.
So nothing to the south.
The senior center the senior center and the ice arena will be in good shape during this, unless there's some larger issue. But for all
Yeah,
intents
and there
purposes,
really
it should be
shouldn't be
unimpacted.
project interference or
Perfect.
anything, because again, that's to the west of the project limits, and this is mostly underground, limited open cutting, so
Okay.
should be pretty clean.
Perfect. And just for future, I would love to have like a little diagram of where, like, here's Stevens, here's where the pipe's going. So we kind of know, but.
For sure.
That's okay on this one. I think we got it, and sounds good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you look on the city website too, you can find the bid specs with all the diagrams and the plans too. Because I was looking for those as well. They
I
were
was
in
in
your
the car.
packet,
I was
but-
in the car,
Yeah.
thinking it was in there. So
Would you prefer me to include like the project plans with the
Well, not-
agenda item?
probably not
or-
that extensive, but
Usually they're on a little
Yeah.
thumb drive.
Thumb
so-
drive would do it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. We have a motion on the table, motion by Councilman Rebello, second by Councilman Frederick, to award the contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have agenda item 8B, request to approve the bid and blanket purchase order for golf course parts, fertilizers, and chemical purchases for fiscal year 24-25. And we're bringing up Rob Spinizzola and Jeff Fizette, the golf course superintendent. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. We're here tonight to request the approval of the bid and blanket purchase order for the golf course and parks fertilizers and chemicals for fiscal year 25. I have Jeff with me tonight, golf course superintendent, and he's going to give you a little more insight on your packet and answer any questions.
Great.
Thank you, Rob. Like Rob said, I'm here to address, ask and recommend for approval for a blanket purchase order from Harrell's for golf course fertilizers and chemicals in the amount of $35,000, and also for the Parks Department in the amount of $15,000. And this is again for fiscal year 2025. We had bid openings February 29th. We received 3 bids: Harrell's, Site One, and Heritage Landscaping Supply. Our history with Harrell's has been really great since not only me here for my 3rd year, but also previous to the golf courses I worked at. I feel very good with their products. They've all been tested, researched through a lot of universities throughout the country. Really high recommended. They're best known for working well in soils with high clay and salt content, which we have a huge problem with at the golf course due to their poor water quality. Their products also have high nutrient contents per container, more than their competitors. Their granular product they have is has a polyon coating. The polyon coating is good for anywhere from 120 to 150 days, depending on the rate you put it down at. It's a patented product that they have that slowly releases nitrogen. Again, it works great for all types of grass, whether it's a fairway, rough, whatever we use it for, especially in the parks too. One of the newer companies to bid was Heritage Landscaping Supply. That's the first one I think I've ever heard of them, let alone having them bid. They're a small company that just started up in the Saginaw area. They have a distributor, I should say, that started in the Saginaw area. I contacted them because they did have some really low bids compared to some of the other prices, and tried to get somebody out there from them to talk with me about their products, and I have not had any results with them to come out and talk to me yet. And I also contacted other superintendents in the area to find out if anybody is using their products, and I have not had any luck yet, so I don't really feel that comfortable being the first one to test out some of their stuff.
And it also says in the memo too, after looking into their products further, most of their liquid fertilizers do not have the equivalent amount of nitrogen and micronutrients, which are vital to healthy turf. So they don't even sound like they are
Right.
potentially similar or like products. They're different products, which may not even be responsive to what we had bid for, correct?
Yeah, and I think a lot of their stuff, you would have to use more of it than what we use right now, so you're probably doubling the amounts you're putting out, which would kind of offset that price cost, I believe, too.
And you do mention in the memo too, we do have an existing contract with Great Lakes Turf that goes until next fiscal year. That is for their their proprietary
We got
products.
it. We understood.
And we will still be utilizing them for their products that are exclusive to them, correct?
Yes, correct, yep.
Okay.
Next year, they will have to rebid.
Okay, and we will be getting a PO at some point, a subsequent meeting for those products, correct? Because we only have a PO right now, of like a blanket PO. We usually put those under consent agenda if we are awarding, so that will be at another meeting.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Any questions? Councilman Frederick?
Yeah, I'll just move to award the 2024-2025 blanket purchase order for fertilizers and chemicals for golf to Harrell's LLC in the amount of $35,000 and to Harrell's LLC for the parks in the amount of $15,000 as recommended by not only our city manager, but Parks and Rec and our golf course person. And by the way, the golf course looks great, so don't change anything.
Thank you.
I support.
Okay. Is that Councilwoman Burgess? And question by Councilman Ravello.
Okay, every time I see fertilizers and chemicals, you can almost guess what I'm gonna ask, 'cause I think I asked the same thing to you last year.
You did, it was in the minutes.
Is it in the minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So, I take this stuff pretty serious, though. Been through a 3-4 year deal with, my dog and chemicals and fertilizers and, you know, how they get tested, the animals. So, I went ahead and called these guys, okay? And the guy got back to me pretty quick on here. Actually, I called him on a Saturday, he called me first thing today. So I did ask him about, animal use with chemicals and fertilizers and companies they buy. And they had a really darn good track record, which satisfied me.
Yeah.
And what is you have a comment on that?
I just know we apply all the products to what the label is asking us to do. And as long as you allow them to dry on the plant, everything that we use, or we water it in to drop it down further, it becomes a lot safer after that, so.
I mean, I realize there's not a lot of dogs and cats, you know.
I mean,
they
on the
might
golf course,
feel
there are
good.
some people that randomly walk dogs,
Yeah.
but there's not anything happening while we're spraying it.
No, I think his question's more to the development of these and were they tested on dogs and cats? I think that was the nature of the question last year, correct?
Yeah, and Harrod said they don't use chemicals, they don't buy from the companies that do this stuff.
That would do it.
Which was good with me.
That's a good answer.
Because I asked, I don't know who I talked to this morning about it, but anyways, I won't drag it on. I just draw the line there.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we have a motion on the table by Councilman Frederick, supported by Councilwoman Burgess, to approve the award of the contracts. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, motion passes. Okay, we do have item that was added late Friday just due to necessity, item 8C. We were emailed, council was emailed the packet inclusion on Friday when it was added, and it's also in a copy on our table. I assume it's been added to the online package for residents.
Yes, that's
Okay, and this is item 8C, request for approval for the removal and replacement of DT-owned lights for the CDBG Senior Center parking lot installation. So, Liz Coe, City Planner.
So on Friday was the pre-construction meeting for the senior center parking lot and canopy, kind of the kickoff. And at that meeting, Metropolitan Concrete indicated to us that they could get going. Obviously, you guys saw it today,
Yep.
right? Which is amazing. The issue is that DTE, in order for them to remove the lights that are in that triangle area and then hook them back up again and do a little other work, in order for them to be able to start that, they have to have check and contract in hand. And Metropolitan Concrete didn't tell us or DTE that they were ready to go today. So we kind of scurried to try to put this all together so that DTE could get out there this week and dismantle the existing lights that are in the way, and then they'll have to essentially like hook back up to the grid to continue to light the Civic Center parking lot. And then they will come in once the new parking lot has been completed, and then they will be installing new lights. And you guys may all know this, this was something I had heard, but I didn't fully understand. DTE lights and owns most of our parking lot lights throughout the city. So we have been waiting for HUD to render a decision as to whether this can be paid for with federal funds, because it's kind of a sole source situation. And so in waiting for this, we didn't execute the contract, but in the end, we want this parking lot to be lit anyway. So whether we pay for it with block grant funds or we do a little bit of shuffle and block grant pays for something else and one of our other funds pays for this, I think it's probably important for the senior center parking lot to be lit. And I'm pretty sure that HUD will approve what I'll call the demolition of the existing lights, because DTE has to do that. We can't hire that out to anybody else. So I'm before you tonight to request the removal agreement and then the installation and maintenance contract agreement so that we can cut a check to them so they can rip their lights out.
Thank you. Councilman Karen.
Thank you. So, Liz or Dustin, kind of help me through the timeline here. So, the meeting that was on Friday, was it basically learned at that meeting that they could start Monday, but
Yes.
this hadn't been done yet?
Correct, yeah, so
Okay.
the contracts hadn't even been signed by Dustin when we had the pre-construction
Okay.
meeting. So like,
So-
that's how fast
So we
things
knew,
happen.
so we knew the DTE needed to get paid prior to this, in order to do this work.
I was not aware that DTE needed to be paid prior to the work beginning. And DTE wasn't aware that they were gonna need to start work this week.
And the other thing off of that as well too, so we knew that our lights were DTE, so we had already contacted HUD to find out, will they cover the cost? That was the big delay, like, will you approve it, because it has to be.
And how long ago was that?
2 months at
Okay.
least. Yeah,
So I guess I'm just wondering, why wasn't this all wrapped up within the construction
right, because
project itself?
we've been waiting for HUD's decision. And then in the end, we kind
Didn't
of,
have
it's like, we want to light the parking lot no matter what, right? Like, we don't want the senior center parking lot to not be lit.
Right.
So whether we pay for it with CDBG funds or another fund within the city, I think we want to have it happen.
Okay.
Right?
So the 51,000 in here was never intended to be part of what, in the construction contract?
Correct.
Because we were still waiting to see if it
Correct.
could be funded or not?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yep,
All
and
right.
the
Thank
billing
you.
agreement stated February 13th, so it's been exactly 2
Yeah,
months.
2 months, yes, yeah.
Councilman Vitale.
The replacement lights will be LED?
Yes, they will be LED. I believe that, it says that in the lighting schedule.
Okay. I don't know how DTE bills for that Civic Arena parking lot, or at least that portion of it. Will we see a reduction in charges from DTE? by
Well, we'll
switching
have
to
the
LED?
5 lights that are in the triangle will be removed, but the rest of the lights in the parking lot
I
will.
know.
Yeah,
So
they'll.
I don't know if there's a separate meter. I don't know how that's done.
This is gonna be, oh, go ahead, Dustin.
So DTE bills on the type of lights that you have.
Yes.
So they will say like, okay, you have a halogen light, this is the rate, this is what, this is, you have an LED light. And then there's, I mean, LED has changed just in the last 10 years as well. So there's different quality of LED lights. So you get billed based on what you have at that rate. So DTE, especially even when you do street lights, they'll come through, here's how many street lights that you have that are LED, here's the rate that you get billed on those.
So it's X hours times
Yes.
however
Type of
many
lights.
types of lights. Okay.
For sure, yep.
All right.
Councilman Vitale.
Just a quick question. The lighting there in that parking lot, is some of that going to radiate over on Stevens too? Because sometimes it's a little dark on Stevens.
No, especially because this is much newer technology, and it'll be able to be directed all towards the parking lot. It won't have overspill. The ordinance actually requires the lighting to die at the property line itself. And so if you look in your packet, on the very last page, I think, maybe a couple pages, I thought I had included the lighting plan, which it's not totally
Yeah, I couldn't
completed.
tell like how far that.
Yeah, but it would be what they say is 0-foot candles at the property line.
Thank you.
Councilman Frederick.
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to approve the request for DTE, for payment to DTE for the removal of equipment billing agreement and the master agreement for the municipal street lighting totaling $51,975.27.
Support.
And to fast track the check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No. Motion by Councilmember Frederick, supported by Councilmember Rebello to approve the 2 contracts. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you,
Motion
everyone.
passes. Okay, agenda item number 9, consent agenda. Do any members of council wish to remove any items?
I'd like to remove A, D, E, F, G, and H.
Okay, A, D, E, F, G, and H?
Yes.
Okay, I hope my nephew's watching, because he's 3.5, he's learning the alphabet now, and that's pretty much all of them, so.
So I'll make a
Very good, it's
motion to approve B,
educational.
C, and I.
Okay, motion by,
Support.
is that, Ron, you support?
Yes.
Okay.
Liz? you hang around 1 minute?
Okay, motion by John, Karen to approve B, C, and I, supported by Councilman Frederick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion passes. Okay, we'll take them one by one, starting with alphabetically, starting with consent agenda 9A bills. Councilman Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, so a question in terms of a couple of charges that were in here regarding the, that were going to AEW for the planning services for the DDA. I saw that it was split between the planning department and DDA. 4,232 was under planning, 1,559 was under DDA. I'm assuming that is the streetscape conceptual design, prepping to submit for TAP grant. I just don't know why it's split between the two and not being covered by DDA.
So the grant application that Liz submitted to SEMCOG Eagle for the planning grant was in total for $40,000. That was the amount that the DDA committed. The actual cost of the AEW services was $60,000. So we paid the additional $20,000 out of the planning consultant budget, out of services, under planning.
Okay, so are we at the end of the billing, that we've got more amount that is in the planning budget versus DDA?
We have expended the money in DDA, and then we
DDA's
are
out,
taking the
and now-
$20,000 out of the planning budget.
Okay,
And we are, for all intents and purposes, finished with the planning of the project.
okay, so there shouldn't be any other bills coming in for that stage?
I am not certain what's outstanding in terms of
Okay.
wrapping up the $60,000, but we can let you know. But we're getting very close to the end.
Okay. All right. And then the only other thing I noted, and this is more for Renee, under street fund, the grass cutting that's being done by LSI, that it was actually taking over for what the water department was doing. It's just in the descriptions, we still mention the water department, in terms of describing what the bill was, because they took over the properties they were doing. But since it's being paid for out of street fund, we probably should be renaming those descriptions and make sure it's clear. I'm sure it's for medians and that, which are qualified expenses under street fund. It just shouldn't be mentioning the water department in the description.
Okay, I'll look into that and make
All
sure
right.
that gets changed.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve 9A.
Support.
Okay, motion by Councilman Karen, supported by Councilman Frederick. Any other? Nope, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, 9A passes. Next is 9D, approval of minutes. Councilman
So-
Karen.
So 9D, I didn't have anything in the packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either.
That also goes for 9E. So I'd make a motion to table 9D and 9E to the next meeting.
Okay, anyone support tabling 9D and E?
Support.
Okay, motion to table by Councilman Karen, supported by Councilman Rebello. No discussion as it's a motion to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next is 9F, delivery of fiscal year 24-25. It says budget worksheet, it's the budget book
So,
to council.
That's not a worksheet.
so since we have the budget been delivered to us, I'd make a motion to receive and file the budget that has been delivered.
Anybody?
Support.
Okay, motion to receive and file the budget binder by Councilman Karen, supported by Councilman Rebello. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 9G, set council budget hearing date for April 30th, 2024 for fiscal year 24-25. Councilman Karen.
So in terms of this one, just from procedural grounds going forward, this is set, so the budget hearing is set for Tuesday, April 30th. I know I'd sent an email a couple of weeks ago to find out when it was scheduled, because normally something would get set in March. And I found out there was some email communication, among others. I found out, the 22nd was available, 29th wasn't available, so it ended up being the 30th. Just want to confirm that everyone's available for the 30th, because it wasn't a council group email that everybody was aware of in that, so before we set that as a date.
As long as the Lord wakes me up, I'll be there.
Well, it's at 6 o'clock at night, so you should be good.
I don't think that's what he meant, John.
So, and with that, maybe going forward, maybe an action item for Abby, when we set since the budget hearing's a required meeting to be set, and the budget has to be delivered by a certain meeting, it is normally, we're doing them either the fourth Monday, or in this case, it would have been the fifth Monday since we had the additional week. Maybe we just add that to the calendar at the beginning of the year. When we set all the other meeting dates, we set the budget hearing date for the fourth Monday of April, and if there is a fifth Monday, we make it the fifth Monday. So we have that all set early in advance.
I agree with that. I think that would help not only council plan their schedule going forward, to help the department heads and sub-department heads we expect to come plan their schedules as well. Okay. Is that
So I'll make a motion to approve the budget hearing date for Tuesday, April 30th at 6 PM.
okay, anyone support?
Support.
Okay, motion by Councilman Karen, supported by Councilman Frederick. Oh, pen raised?
Yeah, sorry. Do you think it'd be a good idea to make a motion to set the budget session being as part of the calendar?
I'm satisfied with Abby making it a part of an action. I would just do that annually.
Yeah, we approve the council meeting dates once a year. So I would just add it as a part of it, and we can approve it and pull it out and discuss it if it's a issue when it comes up. Okay, motion by Councilman Karen. We didn't vote on this, right? Supported by Councilman Frederick to set the council budget hearing date for Tuesday, April 30th for this fiscal year, upcoming fiscal year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And last but not least, 9H, approval to publish notice of public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. Councilman Karen.
Yeah, this is normally, very procedural that we just go ahead and publish these, but in terms of what the proposed rates are that we're just presenting the budget tonight, but given in the past discussions, we've had discussion of especially the police and fire pension rate and make sure that was accurate. I would just like time to actually look at the budget to see how that was set prior to then officially publishing the dates. And Mayor Pro Tem Rusi, I think you did some research earlier that we normally would approve this after we do the budget hearings.
Last year it was on the May 1st agenda, which would have been after the April budget hearings that we conduct. So we can, I think it just needs a 30-day notice, so that would be.
Actuarially set them. Dustin, didn't it come from the actuary?
No,
it does not. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet in there.
Yeah, this is for the June budget hearing, not the.
Well, if you had it 30 days, so if we had it May 6th, I would not qualify for the 30 days. So I guess I'd request it not be published until May 1st. And that way, if something would change on April 30th,
We can
that can
change
get
it, yeah.
changed. Before the it's not approving the rates, it's just the proposed rates.
Proposed rate, right.
And that, so I would make a motion to publish a notice of public hearing, May 1st, pending the budget hearing on April 30th.
Any support?
Support.
Motion by Councilman Karen, supported by Councilman Rebello. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that was a record for a consent agenda.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Wow.
I was glad to be a part of that record.
So much for the consent agenda.
Right.
Kit doesn't know what he's missing.
I just had a question.
Yes.
For Dustin.
It might have been a record.
The request by the schools, we took that off of there. Is there a reason why we did that?
Floor's already approved it, your 2 meetings ago.
Okay, then.
It was sent over from us, yeah.
Got it. All right, that's all I got. Thanks.
Yep. Agenda item 10, updates and follow-ups from council meetings. Dustin, you knew that was coming.
That's, well, I'm not used to the consent agenda being pulled apart. First, Mr. Karen asked for a report on how many bricks have been sold of each size at the golf course. I do realize we're trying to get away from saying an email has been sent out, but that's kind of a little bit trickier. So the email was sent out with all the bricks, with the denominations of how many at the 100 rate, 200 rate, and so on.
Yeah, the
Mr.
answer was sufficient, so that was good.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rusi asked for a follow-up on the clock near Taco Bell, how long it's been broken, and when will it be fixed? It has been fixed. Mr. Rebello asked if there's any other sites to post bids on. Finance is not aware of any other bid sites, but they will do some research to determine what other options that are out there and what other municipalities are doing. Mr. Karen asked about the December financial report. DPW administration increased by $35,000. The increase in the DPW and Parks Recreation were due to the carryover request. So those were carryover requests. And as you mentioned in that meeting, none of the actual budget amendments have been put into that budget sheet yet. Mr. Karen asked for the updated DDA presentation from the businesses for the Friday, April 5th. The DDA presentation to the businesses was canceled because there are key pieces of information missing that will have impacts on both the design and the cost projections. As soon as that meeting is rescheduled, staff will inform council and as requested, provide the latest iteration of the design. We did have two residents. We had a John Smith, St. Clair Shore resident, asked if the traffic light timing can be changed to allow residents who live on Jefferson Avenue to be able to pull out of their driveway more easily. The traffic signals in St. Clair Shores are operated by Macomb County Department of Roads. PD emailed them on 4/3/24 expressing the concerns regarding the traffic signal in Jefferson to see if timing can be reevaluated. Macomb County's response is this concern has been forwarded to their Traffic Operations Center, and they will evaluate the signal timings to make sure it is correct. We had another resident, Donald Hakem, St. Clair Shores resident. He expressed concern about the communication he had received from the state regarding contaminated drinking water. He also mentioned there was a change of wording on the water bills to add a charge for labor, and that is an additional fee. The concern regarding the state of Michigan request was addressed at the meeting by City Manager Lent. City Assessor Shipman has contacted Mr. Hakem to again explain the changes in the wording on the statement. Mr. Hakem was also made aware that the $20 ready-to-serve fee was assessed quarterly and not monthly. There is also, as you will see on here too, some additional follow-ups from the March 18th meeting. Those are all in regards to the parking lot that we said that we was having a meeting. So I want to let staff know, or let the residents know and council know. Ms. Rusi asked staff to review pulling the trash receptacles, benches, picnic tables from the senior center parking lot bid. Staff did meet with AEW and we're moving those amenities out of the contract and obtaining quotes from different companies that we utilize in our Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Vitale asked to look into moving the sidewalk to line up with the median for the senior center parking lot improvements. Staff met with AEW. We are able to relocate the senior center walk along Stevenson Road to be shifted approximately 10 feet from its original location. The new proposed sidewalk should not have an impact to the soccer fields. Mr. Frederick requested follow-up on the handicap parking spaces. Location for the senior center parking lot. Staff met with AEW about relocating some of these accessible parking lot spaces by the sidewalk rather than into the parking lot. We are able to relocate 4 of these spaces. However, to achieve this, we are looking at losing 1 regular parking spot for a total of 66.
It's not bad, not bad.
That is all I have today.
That's all? Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 11, comments by individual council members. We'll continue with Mayor Walby's rotation, and we will start, I think, with Councilman Rebello tonight.
Thank you. A couple of things here I wanted to discuss. We'll start with Denise. Denise, if you could look into, I think I might have mentioned this before, Main Street Vibrancy Grants and Main Street St. Clair Shores. I don't know if you had a chance to do that. I know we had a small discussion on the Main Street. So I think there's some nice things that we can get out of that. I'm not sure if there's anything you want me to do more or if I can help you out in any way. Okay. I asked back, looks like I might have asked back in December about SEMCOG, and I wanted to see about their trends and predictions. They did as like for demographics, they had done a survey on it, and I just sort of want to try to get some results from it. So when we're making decisions up here, that we can use this type of analysis on it. I think that gives us sort of a roadmap. So how can we get that, Dustin?
I'll look for that survey that you're referencing and get it out to all council.
Okay.
They usually publish that as a
Yeah,
booklet.
they usually do publish it and send it out,
Should
but
be able
I
to get
haven't remember seeing it yet.
Yeah,
so-
okay. I didn't know if it's out there, but
Yeah.
I think they were doing that back in December. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the Community Excellence Award. And I think we've done plenty of that stuff here in St. Clair Shores, and a lot of things we do, and a lot of it's fun. We take care of other things too, but we've built and done some great stuff here in St. Clair Shores. There is a deadline for this, and it looks like it's May 17th. So want to highlight some local success stories and best practices, and to share innovative community programs or projects on a statewide platform. In other words, we want to show off St. Clair Shores. I'm into that. And bridge building through the ML Foundation, Michigan Municipal League, the micro grants. So, Dustin, this might be one thing with an assistant city manager. Can he concentrate on this stuff too?
I can have him look at some grants for sure. Yeah.
Okay, because I know folks get overloaded and stuff, but I think that these types of things are important for our city. I like to showcase it. I like to promote it. Bless you. May 26th is that St. Clair Shores Memorial Day Parade. We have a dinner Thursday at the VFW Post. I do have tickets. Some of us have already bought them up here. So if there's anyone left out there or a way to contact me, looking to sell some tickets by Thursday. We have a limit on them. And we talked about lights at the senior center. There's people that have complained that the north end of St. Clair Shores is not well lit. And I am wondering, how can we get some lights down there?
So we have sent on a request to our DTE lighting consultant to look at some of those areas that have been emailed, and once we get that response back, we'll email it back out to council.
Okay, and a little bit on the sidewalk program. I think we might be able to look at some of the things that, that we can, I guess, ease up on, for lack of a better word. So we took a walk over the weekend, and some of the stuff is inconsistent when we're marking sidewalks, and that might be something that we can look at and see if we can better, do the program. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, that's it, right, Dave?
Done.
Okay. Councilman Karen.
Thank you.
He was holding the papers. I wasn't sure if there was
I
like
was
one
thinking
more
that
thing.
too, so.
I went for the muskrat.
I was looking at the muskrat. I guess no one gets a muskrat award
No one gets a
today.
muskrat this week.
If that city, if the city engineer guy can keep Stevens open for the parade, he's gonna get one, I promise.
There you go.
Got some motivation right there. Maybe Dave will give it back
City
for
engineer guy.
Anyway,
Councilman Karen.
so few announcement events coming up here. There's actually a lot of great local entertainment that's going on in the next few weeks. This weekend, the Lakeview Community Theater Guild is presenting Matilda the Musical at Lakeview High School in the Chauvelin Auditorium. That's April 19th through the 21st. Friday showtime is at 7 p.m. Saturday is at 5. Sunday's a matinee at 2. And the Theater Guild has tickets you can buy online, and that is at lctg.ludus, ludus.com. That's lctg.ludus.com to purchase tickets for the Lakeview Community Theater Guild presenting Matilda the Musical this weekend. And a little personal note is my cousin Christina Karen, who just graduated with a music education degree from Central Michigan, right?
Fire up.
There you go. She's actually, she teaches down in Dearborn, but she's helping with this musical this weekend up here in St. Clair Shores at my high school. So it's a great thing to come out, and I think this is the first time they've done it probably since 2019, that the community theater came back at Lakeview High School. So it's great that they got that restarted again. For the next weekend, Friday, April 26th, 27th, 28th, we had their presentation beginning of the meeting, Reflections on Ice, being presented by the St. Clair Shores Figure Skating Club, presents The Wizard of Oz on ice, so everyone can check that out. On April 26th, that Friday morning, we do have the Arbor Day celebration with the Bryce Park Arboretum. That's going to be at 9 a.m. at Bryce Park, and we got some trees to plant, some mulching to do, some cleanup to do. So everyone kind of come out.
Wear jeans.
Wear jeans. Bring, if you have, bring
Jeans you don't
shovel,
care
bring a
about.
rake. Green ones. And that, so, yeah, everyone's welcome to come out and join us, as this will be our first Arbor Day in our newly certified Arboretum at Bryce Park. And the last event, the weekend after that, St. Clair Shores Community Chorus is proudly presenting Disney Dazzle on stage at Lakeshore High School. That is going to be at 7 p.m. on May 2nd. Tickets for adults are pre-sale at $20, $22 at the door, $10 for children 4 to 12. Children under 3 are free. Call for info at 586-482-6056. And so it is a community chorus presenting Disney Dazzle on stage. And I do even believe that Mayor Pro Tem Rusi has some tickets to sell up here as well for that. So some really great events, entertainment coming up in the next few weeks, presented by our great community. So that is great to see. So a couple of city issues. The city manager has sent me the engineering report on the Bryce Park walking path in terms of the additional cracking that was occurring. And I'd request that you send this out to all of council. Again, as I went through this today, definitely did not help my mood.
We noticed.
Exactly. To me, as I read this, it's really a bunch of excuses. It's oh yeah, well, we had this, well, city knew about this at this time, and so they were all part of that decision at that time. Well, we hire the engineering firms of engineering these things correctly and get it right before it gets put down. Because this thing there's actually a phrase in here about it, after the first path was put down, next bullet point was, Al's Asphalt realized it was failing. No, I called it out for 9 months saying it was failing. We had to force Al's to come back to fix it, which was another crack ceiling, overlayment, and then it's like just cracked again. And the other thing that kind of really frustrates me is that they point out, is like, well, that basically they're trying to blame, well, wait, someone drove a truck on a part they shouldn't have drove a truck on. And they had to include a picture in the report of one of our Parks and Rec truck doing work in the dog park, putting additional gravel down in certain areas that was requested. So for them to come in and say, because there was one truck, one day, oh, that's why your path is failing, it's mind-boggling. In terms of the recommendations, they just basically say we're just gonna have to keep filling up the cracks. That basically now we're gonna have to do yearly joint sealing program on the pathway in order to keep it from failing further. So I'm just heavily disappointed in their performance on that. And that basically is just not giving us any solution for the path failing again after it was fixed the multiple other times. So I should forward that out, and then I don't know what they're not gonna take any other responsibility for it. So I don't know what to do from there. Outside, apparently now we have to do Well, and actually, I don't even think with the joint ceiling program, we can't drive in the pass. I'm not sure how we do that.
On the grass. See, if, whatever you can come up with, I don't know.
Got a 40-year-old asphalt path at Blossom Heath.
Yeah.
That looks good.
Exactly. So a little more on sidewalks. Councilman Rebel had talked a little about, so on Saturday, myself, Councilman Rebel, Mayor Pro Tem Rusi, we did walk down Playview. We did have the markings that were started. And a little more detail in terms of what we were seeing. You know, in the past, we really limited the criteria to just worrying about the trip hazards. It wasn't about bringing all the slabs to an ordinance code. It was avoiding trip hazards because that's what we get dinged with in liability in that. And as long as we maintain that program, that was one of our defenses. If we do have a trip, do occasionally happen, that's part of our legal defense is we have this program that we're actually looking at the trip hazards. It wasn't about trying to correct every other potential issue, which I think in terms of Playview may have been a little unique this year because they had several trees that were taken out. And so sidewalks kind of went around the trees and so they were visible anymore. So that was one of them that got marked. But they, even in that case, they weren't consistent because I found another house that had a narrow sidewalk for that same reason they didn't mark. So that's again, an issue with the engineering company not being consistent in what they were calling out. So that was one, and I think, and Mike, you had emailed earlier today that you agreed with that assessment, and we weren't doing the, if it's narrower than 5 feet. The other inconsistent standards was just on what the raised edges were. We saw some slabs, it looked like it was a 1/2 inch to 1 inch that was marked. Other ones looked like that was 1/2 inch to 1 inch, weren't marked. So again, we're not sure what standard was being used. So that's kind of one of the things that get reevaluated. If the slabs had a crack going down the middle, if it was like a single crack, we saw some that a single crack, they were marked with an A, which means that they could basically put cement over it and flatten it out and seal the crack. Other ones that had a single crack, they had for replace. And we're looking at it and it's like, it's the same thing. As a matter of fact, we even saw some that had A's as being filled that were worse than the ones that had cracks that were being called to get replaced. Again, it's all about consistency. Sidewalk ramps, at one intersection, we saw the sidewalk ramps that were basically, they were all marked. When we saw that, we assumed it was for ADA, to basically have the step pads put at the end, to warn people that are coming up to the street. But then when we got the next intersection, none of it was marked. So don't know why the ramps were marked one versus the other. From the condition of the ramps, they look fine. Slope-wise, I think they're fine. It was, the only thing we were thinking about having those pads in there for ADA, but again, one was marked, the other
Yep,
one
and
wasn't
those are
marked.
Cs, so that falls on the city. That's a
Right.
city responsibility, so it's not something that's going on the residents, that's something that's going on the
Right, but
city. So we
and
need
that's
to
all
make
out
sure
of
we
general
update
fund.
those.
Right, but that's all out of general fund to do that too, so.
Right,
and
we
we're gonna
need
get
to make
challenged in
sure we
that.
update those when we're out there.
Right.
And get those ADA compliant.
Well, now I'm not sure if we're even required to, if we're doing this program. I know if we're near doing it by a street, I
Project,
think
if you're
we
doing a
are.
project, you have to bring everything up to code. but
Right.
Just to bring things up to code for all intents and purposes without a true project other than our own.
Right, okay. And the last thing that I noticed, there's this one house that was being built, and basically it looked like the contractor destroyed the sidewalk in the process of doing it. And most of those squares were marked, but there were some in front of the house that were destroyed by the contractor that weren't marked. But then 3 of the squares were in front of the neighbor's house. And what I worry about there is that contractor should replace the entire sidewalk as part of the project, and that should be part of us as a building department, making sure they do that. But by marking it, that meant our engineering put it down, it's in the spreadsheet against those homes, and if the concrete company goes out there and replaces them before the project's done, a lot of confusion there, and then plus, it would be billing the house next door for the neighbor that destroyed the sidewalk, if it goes through the program versus telling that building company they've got to replace everything, right? And it shouldn't be part of our program. So those were the little more specifics of what we found out there. So and kind of don't think we really need to stress it, but you know, just what we're charging, 175 a square. I think that's what we're talking about, right? So that's, that's residents have to pay that. So we got to really limit it to, we're avoiding the trip hazards. And, yeah, Mike.
Oh, can you come up to the podium?
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to say the price per square, per flag for like a typical 5x5 is about $120.
That's what we're charging, but we also have permitting fees.
Permitting fee, yeah.
Well, if the contractor replaces it, that's what it is. It's $120 per.
We'll get back with council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's some other expenses that have to go in there.
Yes, there's, yeah. Other
For
than
the
the
program.
contractor, we also have the engineering firm who has time that goes out there. That's administration that's added to the fees.
Right.
So it's more than just a contractor's cost.
Right.
Okay, so to John's point that he brought up, when we have Playview and anything else that was already marked, reassessed, and re-instruct the engineers to go out with the standards that John had mentioned, trip hazards, things like that, not looking for strict ordinance compliance necessarily, and also for some of the consistency issues. I think, given we have the authority to put the costs of replacing sidewalks that are owned by the city onto the resident, we need to make sure we exercise that authority judiciously and fairly. And I saw a lot of examples was when I was out there with Councilman Karen and Rebello that I could not understand why they were marked at all, let alone the way they had been marked. So I think we need those reassessed, and we need to get the engineer operating under, I think, a better understanding of what we're looking for, because I'm not having 2 months of this program getting these piecemeal complaints rightfully from residents and having to have those reassessed. Let's have them marked correctly the first time. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Frederick.
Thank you. Well, we got something exciting happening in this room at the next council meeting. So all of this stuff that you see here is going to be replaced, I think, starting tomorrow. There'll be an 86-inch screen going up there, and this is going to be, it'll add a lot of digital capability and all kinds of other stuff. So that came through the communications department, so we appreciate all the hard work that Steve and his crew who are behind the scenes right now, everything that you did. Also wanted to mention that on June 13th, the Optimist Club is doing a police and fire breakfast. Tickets will be available at the door. This will be an honorary for all of the police and fire that have done some great things over the past year. And then also our good friend Diana Rascano on May 18th at Harbor Lanes for 4 Paws, 1 Heart. That is, those are animals, dogs and cats. She's got a fundraiser, $25 gets you pizza and shoes. And they always have really great prizes, like there's an Ovation Cruise, there's a Blackstone Grill, something called a Pleasure Basket. I don't even know what that is, I'm not gonna ask. Okay. I want you to mark your calendars for the Wigs for Kids Gala. We saw Maggie up here tonight. Our big gala, which is the biggest fundraiser of the year, is on Tuesday, September 10th. Tuesday, that is correct, I said Tuesday, September 10th, 5:30 to 9:30. It's going to be at Penna's out in Sterling Heights. Tickets are $125 for adults. Early bird pricing is $100, so if you want to get in on the $100 deal, get with me early. Or you can go to wigsforkids.org and click on the annual gala button. And then there's also a pre-gala raffle, and those are $10, and you can win like $1,000, and that covers 9 wigs for the kids. We're still promoting the First Tee renovation out at the golf course. I'm just going to read you this. It's the https://donate.brickmarkers.com SCSGC. So you can still get a brick to go around the clock that is going out at the golf course, and we're excited about that. And it could be a memorial brick, or it could be just, hey, I played this course, right? So, also the Shore in Kiwanis, mark your calendars. Wednesday, August 28th, 5 to 9 is the charity car cruise. Always an exciting day. out there, and I eliminated a couple of these because John already covered it. So let's talk just a little bit about the library. So if you want to have fun and meet other homeschool families, Chris, in the area during the homeschool hangout event on Tuesday, tomorrow, April 16th, from 2:30 to 4. This drop-in program is for kids ages 5 and up and their adults. In April, children and families will have the opportunity to use makerspace items. No registration is required, and this program is designed for homeschoolers, but all are welcome. Kids 11 to 18 who would like to help the youth services librarians prep for programs are invited to a teen volunteer session on Saturday, April 20th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Registration began today and is available online through the library's website. Registration can also be done in person or by dialing 586-771-9020 or by email to scsyouth@libcoop.net. Children ages 1 to 3 and their caregivers are invited to toddler drop-in play at the library Thursday, April 18th, Saturday, May 4th. Both of those are from 10 to 11:30 a.m., and toys will be available in the Giltsdorf meeting room. No registration is required. Take and make bags for kids are available starting Monday, May 6th. Bags containing supplies to make a dragonfly will be placed in a bin inside the youth services room and are available during library hours while supplies last. The Friends of the Library have an annual meeting every year, and this is their setup meeting is scheduled for April 25th at 6:30 p.m. in the library meeting room. The meeting includes annual elections at 6:30 p.m., followed by a presentation at 7 p.m. by Metro Park speaker Charlie Shelton. Shelton will discuss the lives of the Ojibwa, Odawa, and Potawatomi tribes before statehood. So it should be pretty interesting. And then I always like to give you a couple of stats. The library is very busy during the month of March, which was also reading month. In total, patrons checked out 15,626 physical items, 4,241 ebooks and audiobooks, and then the library sent 11,430 items to other cooperative libraries for checkout. So we are a busy crew over there. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Vitale.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to compliment Mayor Pro Tem Rusi for running the meeting tonight. We both got to do roll call votes during I had a year ago, you had one this year. So we both had some items of controversy. I want to mention that I was out and about, well, you know what, I'm going to bring that up later. But as everybody knows, I have kind of been talking about power lines, DTE's responsibilities thereof. And what I've got here is just a little bit, and believe me, this is a little bit, of what it takes to go back and forth with the DTE representative in terms of getting trees trimmed, where apparently the photos I showed actually somehow made a point. There was a damaged neutral service on one of those line drops. They admitted to that. They went out and replaced it. Instead of putting a rubber hose around it so they could just rub and then just rub the rubber hose instead, they instead moved it. I have not seen it yet. I do intend to go take a look at it. But you know, this is the kind of runaround that it takes to go back and forth. When I talked about trees interfering up into the power lines, the main lines, not the power drops, the representative from DTE said, well, these could be ITC drops. And I thought, or these could be ITC transmission lines. And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of like, you know, the power lines that run along 8 Mile, the power lines that run, you know, through between like Shaner and Van Dyke, those are ITC lines. But if this guy thinks that we have ITC lines, he works for the power company, he might know more than I do. So he introduces this whole idea, and then he responds back to me in an email and says, there may be some confusion about the nature of the lines in the area. These are being miscategorized as transmission. Well, you're the person who introduced the idea that these were transmission lines, not me. And then he's asking about sending someone out to go take a look at it, and I pointed out to him, You had someone on the pole who I assume was either a DTE employee or contractor. He couldn't tell you if there were trees up in the lines? We need to have another inspection? But fine, go do it. And I was told today by the resident that more trees were trimmed today. So if we could go to the next slide on that. And you know, I'm not putting this up to get any kind of a pat on the back for me. She's thanking me for, this not would have happened without you. Today's the only contact we've had with Cap&Tree/DTE. The reason I bring that up is, not to pat myself on the back, but to point out, it takes the involvement of a councilman. This is actually not a city issue. It's been pointed out to me more than once, correctly so, by the city attorney, city administrators, et cetera. It's not a city issue. This is an issue between homeowner and DTE. But here's the thing. Unless you're a city councilman and you have a platform to speak from and shame these people into doing something, it doesn't get done. This is what it takes for me. You know how much time I dedicate to exchanging idiotic emails with the DTE rep? It's extremely frustrating, and if I weren't on a city council, do you think he'd be doing that with me? I severely doubt it. This is your public utility in action. They are regulated by the Michigan Public Service Commission. Michigan Public Service Commission consists of people who worked on prior governor campaigns and then were rewarded with a job regulating utilities. These are the people who determine if the programs to cut lines and trim are adequate, if the rates are high enough, if they justify an increase, and anything else that involves regulating a forced monopoly. The same people who spend thousands and hundreds of thousands and who knows, maybe millions of dollars on commercials on radio stations to convince you to buy a product that you basically have to buy anyways. In order to have your house considered fit for occupation, you have to have electric service. And they're advertising themselves. While it takes this amount of work to get trees trimmed, can we then go to the next slide? So, as I was starting to say, I was out and about this weekend, attended a couple of open houses in the city for sale homes. And I'll tell you, boy, it's like they're giving something away for free, Apple iPhones or something, because these houses got more people inside than the fire department should know about. Anyways, that just goes to show you how popular it is to buy a home in the shores. But while I was out and about, one of these homes that was offered up for sale on Lakeland Street did not have any power. And as I'd found out, didn't have any power for, I think almost by that point, 24 hours, because a power line went down. And if you see where I circled here, there are about 5 homes on Lakeland Street that had the caution tape that ran all the way across the driveway and everything like that. Now, usually that is done because a power line falls on a fence and it electrifies the fence. So I would actually like to know if we've had any either police or fire response on Lakeland Street for this down power line. My guess is probably, because usually we're the responders to keep people out of those yards so they don't touch power lines. Can you go to the next one? So I was able to observe this through a fence. Look what I bet caused that power line problem. I don't think it was Godzilla. I think a tree fell on that. Was this another tree in the city that maybe I'm not aware of because that person who lives there doesn't know to contact their council person so they can do the job they're not really supposed to do and make DTE do something about it? But this is how your public utilities treat your first responders who have to go out and close down these streets. This is how they treat the property owners that live on these streets. This is their tree program in action. Just making everyone aware of it. Okay, if we could go on to the next slide. A little happier note here. St. Paul's Lutheran Church Rummage and Bake Sale will be on Friday, May 3rd, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday, May 4th, from 9 to 3. And I put a picture of the church there. If everyone can recognize it, it is at the southern edge of beautiful downtown St. Clair Shores. And that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Councilwoman Burgess.
All right, well, thank you very much. Got a few things here. One, I want to mention that the Nautical Coast Cleanup is coming Sunday, May 19th. I am the council liaison for the Waterfront Environmental Committee, and we got a great group of people there. They are seeking lake-loving volunteers to help out. It's from 8 a.m. till noon. There's going to be breakfast, refreshments, a lunch afterwards. If you register, it is absolutely free to register. If you register, you get an event T-shirt. Of course, you're always welcome to come the day of, but you will not be able to get a T-shirt. They are also looking for sponsors of the event. It does cost money to put on events, and if you'd like to sponsor, you can either contact me at my city email, or you can contact at scswec.org if you would like to come to the event, or if you like to sponsor the event. And there is a flyer floating around if you want to go to the Waterfront Environmental Facebook page, giving you all the events that are coming up. There's a lot of other mini cleanups going on in the city throughout the summer. The other thing I wanted to bring up too is, my phone, because I made pictures of it. The Big Brew Fest is coming up Saturday, April 27th at Blossom Heath. It's from 1 to 10 p.m. And there's live music going to be there. 1 to 4 is the launching Mad Men, and then Nikki Holland and the Dirty Elizabeths from 5 to 9 p.m. And there will be a beer tent there. Kiwanis Lock St. Clair will be there pouring beer. So it's a nice big event, the Big Brew Fest. Lastly, I want to bring up, join us, this is the St. Clair Shores Cultural Committee presents Michigan poet,
Laureate.
Thank you, Lorette Nandy Comer, in conversation with Tommy Blount, thank you. It's an evening of poetry and conversation with the Michigan's poet. It's going to be Wednesday, April 24th at 6:30 p.m. The event is free and open to the public, ages 13 and up. And there will be some adult content in it. That's why they're having 13 and up on it. And that, again, Wednesday, the 24th of April, 6:30. And it's going to be in the St. Clair Shores Public Library. And registration is already opened up March 20th. And you can also contact them at scsculturalcommittee@gmail.com.
Thank you.
No Beach Boys at the Brewfest?
No, not Beach Boys. Laughing Madmen.
Okay. Agenda item 12, City Manager's Report.
No
Dustin,
report.
those are the best reports. Okay, thank you. Okay. Agenda item 13, audience participation. There's a 5-minute time limit, and the views and opinions expressed under audience participation are those of the individual citizen only and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the mayor, city council, or administration of the city of St. Clair Shores. Would anyone like to speak? Just raise your hand. Okay. Yep. If you could just go up there, give your name, city of residence. You have 5 minutes, and then when you're done, if you could just give your information to the clipboard by Denise, you can fill out afterwards. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Cynthia Hines, and I am a resident of Grand Blanc, Michigan, 9099 Bradway Boulevard, Grand Blanc, Michigan. My husband is Pastor Tony Hines, and we are the pastor and sister pastor of Church of Living God on the corner of Winton and Frazo. And I came to you guys maybe like a year or so ago, and I'm back with good news. We are really getting close to opening the child care center. There used to be Apple Tree Child Care Center there. So I've got some little flyers here. And we're having an open house and a ribbon cutting on April the 27th from noon to 4. This is not a open. This is more of a marketing event for people to walk through, see the improvements that have been made, and for a pre-registration to let families know here's another resource for them in the summer, so we're being very strategic and trying to catch the kids who are going to be out. In the summer, ages we will serve will be from infants to 12 years old. We'll have before school, after school, and our hours will be from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening. That's better than than everybody else that's out in the market. And also, we will be accepting DHS subsidy payments. So a lot of new little things where we fit in the market, and we've done that research. That's it.
What's the address?
Oh, the address is 19800 Frazo Street, St. Clair Shores, Michigan. We're right on the corner. It is attached to the church.
Thank you.
And I'll leave these with you, maybe?
Yep, and just put your contact information on that clipboard right there by Denise. And congratulations and good luck with the new enterprise. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back up here. Agenda item 14, mayor's comments. Just want to thank my colleagues and administration. This is always a daunting task chairing the meeting. This was not an easy agenda. Thank you, Kip. So I appreciate the
You did good,
everyone's
Candace.
participation and support. And with that, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Support.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
No one's opposed? Okay.
Why not?
Okay,
Good night.
Good night. Okay, thank you.